Backpedaling, running out of time, spinning away, and nobody open. Now he flips it up into traffic and makes a mistake. Trying to force the play, and it's intercepted. BJ Mays rumbling down inside the 10.
This is 365 Sports.
Bowling Green with no timeouts. Nick Singleton. Touchdown, Penn State.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Klubnik, undaunted, unafraid, complete, Turner, touchdown!
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Why not?
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Jennings on the play fake, slides it upfield. Matthew Hittner off to the races. Hittner at the 30, full speed, and the big tight end goes 75. It's a Pony Express.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Here we go on a Monday and a new week, and interesting information when it comes to the University of Memphis and their hopes of joining the Big 12, which is not going to happen. But we'll have a lot to get to today. We have a lot of stories to do our headlines with. We'll move those back, including there's ACC, Big 10, American Athletic Conference, which has a name change, and other media days going on. But Craig and Paul, I'm David Smoak. This is 365 Sports. The University of Memphis, this is Ross Dellinger with the report earlier this afternoon, made a 200, eventually became a higher number, offer to enter the Big 12. For now, it does not have enough support, but potentially sets a standard for all future expansion. Brett McMurphy, $250 million was the offer. Memphis was trying to buy into the Big 12. Yahoo first reported that was Ross Dellinger, who then had this. Memphis's proposal decided as a no-risk. School would, one, take zero distribution for 5 years. We've seen teams do that, SMU and others. Add in each sponsorships as much as $3 million annually to each Big 12 school coffers. Subject itself to expulsion after 2030 if the Big 12 deems it's not adding any value. Basically, they can sweep them away. This is stunning, not so much that they're trying to get to be a part of a major conference, but my goodness, the stories out there. And for Memphis, they have tried this in the past, weren't quite ready. Now they are, and unfortunately not enough.
Well, I mean, how do you do it now that the dust has really settled? And the conferences are huge. 16, 17, 18, 16. I mean, like, they're huge leagues. So you've got these gigantic leagues that now you have to convince one to go as big as the Big Ten or the ACC, that they're comfortable, and they could have had you before. They could have had Memphis before. So what's changed in the 4 years since they didn't add Memphis? Well, Memphis is, they're remodeling their stadium. They're doing all these things. They've got this big, gigantic grant or gift from FedEx that's going to allow them to do a lot of things that they weren't doing before. But do you just sit around and wait for somebody to invite you after you play a couple seasons, or you try to, force your chips to the middle of the table and see if they'll bite? And the Big 12 just didn't. $200 to $250 million, the sponsorships, all those things just wasn't what they wanted right now. I mean, today they say no. I mean, a year from now they could change their mind, as the economics of college athletics are constantly in motion. But I'm kind of surprised that, you hear all these people saying, hey, we want money. And Memphis is like, how about $250 million? And like, nah, not yet. No.
Craig?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fascinating headline that came down that we weren't expecting to be talking about. I mean, Memphis and the Big 12 have been dancing off and on for several years now. Paul, you asked what's changed. The Big 12's added 8 teams.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what's changed. I mean, that's – forget what Memphis has done.
Changed about Memphis.
Yeah, but I mean, in general, like, regardless of what they've done, the Big 12 has added 8 teams in the time that Memphis has been trying to get into the league. So there's one thing that has changed, and Memphis has gone back to the drawing board and tried to put in, the proper upgrades and lift themselves up to, become more attractive and be a partner that people would want to dance with. And man, what a blow if you're a Memphis fan. Like, can we just start there of what do you do next? I mean, at this point, I see people automatically going, well, now Memphis and the Pac-12, they'd had discussions in the past. The Pac-12 had said apparently, like, hey, come on, let's go. And Memphis said no, probably because they were hoping that this would be a better route for them that would work out, and now it doesn't. And so then what now happens for Memphis, other than just continuing to chip away and try to make yourself as pretty as possible in the years to come with whatever upheaval is on the horizon. But the problem is if you want to go talk to the Pac, that's fine, but I don't think that you're necessarily going to want to pay them $250 million.
No way. No.
So the idea that the Pac's just going to get that offer now is not going to happen. And they're also still not in a place where they're on the level of being an A4. And so what would that even look like? But I mean, that's kind of what you're down to now, is stay where you are. And to announce this on a day where the American's done this big rebranding, it's like just a gut punch for the American in a marketing sense, because you had this big, hey, we're this now. And the big story that we're talking about, and probably many others are talking about, is one of their schools trying to leave the conference, and not just leave, but eventually pay $250 million to get out of the American Conference.
They saw Soar the Eagle, and they're like, no.
Yeah, it's crazy. That just happened on the same day. So that's kind of rotten luck there. But yeah, a very interesting story. I mean, Memphis's intent to jump up, and basically everybody else in their same shoes, is attempting to do the same thing, just maybe not to an extreme of a degree, and probably not capable of doing it to as an extreme of a degree. But that's not a surprise. The fact that Big 12 said no, guys, that's the surprise, I think, for everybody reading this, going, all right, they're not taking any money. Every Big 12 school is going to end up with like $10 million plus after this is all said and done. So why would they say no to this, I think, is the question that most people are probably wondering right now. And I'm curious. I mean, why do you think that they decided to say no to this? I think it's probably because you don't want to feel like you're watering yourself down further. And that's with all due respect to Memphis. But I think it's also because you're looking at the next 5 years and you're going, nobody knows what the hell is going to happen, other than there's really good chances that a lot of calamity happens, and we want to be ready for it. We don't want to force feed ourselves teams for the sake of teams. And that's why I've always pushed back on a lot of this realignment stuff in some places when it's just obvious. Like, well, why would they not take it? Because you don't want 25 teams in a conference, especially when there might be better teams available sooner rather than later. So That's what I think. The Big 12's got to be looking on the horizon and not wanting to water themselves down any further. What do y'all think about why they would turn this money down in an era when everybody, wants more money, no matter how they can get it?
So if you have an odd number of teams, you'd have to add somebody else. No, you don't, because the ACC has an odd number of teams. But at the same time, it does create a lot of okay, what about this? One of the things, if you're Memphis, they've been wanting to get into a conference outside of what was Power 5 for the longest of time. We documented that back when we launched this show back in 2020, and it didn't work out. Maybe they realized that the separation between the Power 4 conferences and the others, which I hope isn't the case, but maybe that's drastic enough for them to go, let's take one more big shot and try to buy our way into a conference. The SEC's not going to listen. The Big Ten's not going to listen. Pac-12, they've got kind of where they are.
Doesn't appear the ACC has any interest because they would have done it by now as well. And then the Pac, I think they're in a different stage now than they were prior, so it's not quite the same thing. But I know why Memphis would do it. That wasn't my question. I know exactly why they're doing it. Why would the Big 12 not do it is what I'm asking.
I think it's just I think they're one in their
logistics.
They're in and they're in a good spot right now. Like they really are. Like they're in a good spot. Like they're going through their plan systematically. The only way that I would say what Memphis should have done is gotten UConn on board and then gone to Brett Yormark. You want your little Huskies, buddy? You want your Huskies? We'll bring your Huskies. We'll convince everybody. But other than that, I just don't see. There's not a lot of synergy to it of just all right, we're going to do this. We'll come into the league. Everything seems to be kind of according to plan so far, and I guess they feel that the $3 million per school is just not enough to wet the beak of them to want to do it.
To go to 18 teams and suddenly have 2 more teams that are
all these other things. It's just not. Yeah, or just to go to 17 and do it. Everything seems smooth. So, that those things are it's probably just not the right time for them.
Why would it be $3 million?
Well, that's what the report said about.
I know. But if you
$3 million annually per school in the
per school.
Per school. Yeah,
so $10 million. It's $15 million if you take $250 million and you divide it by 16. That's a pretty good chunk of change when you're trying to see a lot of these other schools finding ways to make money.
Yeah. Now I'm surprised. Part of me is surprised that this report didn't come out and Jim Phillips didn't run right to them and go $200 million. Done. We already have another team that's not taking distribution. Sure, why not? We can be at a nice round number of 18. But that might have been maybe they did, and he called Notre Dame and they said, nah.
Well, I hate it for Memphis. I know that there are. I've seen in the chat, and I see other people. They take pot shots at Memphis. I kind of, God bless them, man. They're not trying to give it up. They're not trying to give up on what they can. I hate it for them, but I also understand the decision. The Big 12 say, no, we're in a pretty good place right now. We don't need to interrupt any of whatever we have, and also the logistics of adding the team.
Yeah, no, I applaud Memphis. I mean, I am on the side of the Big 12's decision in this. It's very tempting, but I think that you're looking at just bigger prizes down the line. And that's ultimately what you're doing is you're being patient and you're going to be making moves that come eventually, but this doesn't benefit you into making those moves. And it doesn't benefit you as much as oh, wow, look at the money. And I do also think when it comes to the reporting of the money, everybody's taking it, I think, based off the headline is this is just some direct deposit that hits the Big 12. It's all tied to sponsorships, or a large chunk of it's tied to sponsorships. And so if you're the Big 12 and you don't have the need for a ton of more sponsorships, or you know what I'm saying here, or you have kind of what you've got and it's just sponsorship money, then that's a different thing than saying, hey, here's this this check directly from Memphis that's $4 million. Here you go, Texas Tech. Here you go, Cincinnati, so on and so forth. So I think that's probably part of the reporting that's not exactly the way that it reads, and is maybe one of the things that adds up ultimately into the Big 12 going, yeah, that's not worth taking on all of your teams and the schedules and the travel and all of that. I mean, and before anybody starts pushing back on the travel, I know they're already going to this place and that place, and the travel's already crazy, but just adding another place is just, it's another place you got to go. It's another trip, and it's another thing to organize. So I think you can find a multitude of reasons. They're not all major reasons, but a multitude of reasons that all add up, and you go, yeah, that looks really sweet, but it's better to be patient and wait. And that's clearly what the Big 12 is doing at the moment. And I'm with you, though. I applaud Memphis. Like, I know people are probably going to take their cracks and whatnot, especially rival fan bases, but I think that they're doing everything in their power, clearly, to try to jump on the lifeboat or whatever you want to refer to it as. And perhaps no one's done more than Memphis has, except for those that maybe have now landed in leagues like SMU or BYU or whoever. But yeah, they've tried, and they're still trying, and I'd assume that they're going to keep trying. I just don't know how many other places they can go and look at this point.
By the way, Timothy Vermeer in the chat, it's ironic Memphis news happens on this date, July 21st. It was on this date, 2021, that the Big 12 was thrown into a full-blown panic on the report that Texas and Oklahoma were leaving the Big 12.
Yeah, what a difference
it's amazing. Yeah,
a few years makes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I didn't know that anniversary was today. I don't remember it like that, but I'm glad that you did, because it is interesting, especially to mention in light of this news. And yeah, this is all still a chain reaction. I think had Oklahoma and Texas stuck around, Memphis was still trying to poke their head around and find a spot like the Big 12 or wherever. But yeah, certainly it's interesting to look at where the Big 12 in particular was. And really everybody else has changed since then too, but to now where they're turning down teams that are offering to pay in some form or fashion $250 million, they're going no to that. That's wild, especially, looking back on just a few years ago.
Yeah, Memphis's lucrative membership proposal to the Big 12, according to Ross Dellinger, follows more than a year of an aggressive lobbying effort from the school's president, Bill Hargrave, who has met individually with more than half of the Big 12 presidents and top athletic administrators. I've reached out to a few of those that we know. I haven't heard anything back from anybody. Of course, they have FedEx and Lowe's and much more. But it's no. It's no. Good for Memphis trying. People taking pot shots at them and all that. I don't take any pot shots at them. I hate it for any team that might be wanting to move up, but right now is just not a very good time.
Well, the pot shots are probably coming from these people called rivals who love this story.
Houston's a rival of Memphis, by the way, and was in the American Athletic Conference, which is now the American Conference. But yeah, those that don't like Memphis, they're living it up.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, of course you are. It's your rival. So yeah, especially if you're one of those schools that got in, if you're Houston and you were in the American and now you're sitting there in the Big 12, counting your money, and here's a school that you were attached to that you were, not that fond of, and they're trying to get their way in there, and the league you're in says no, like, yeah, you're probably talking some mess today. And various others are as well. I'm sure some Tennessee fans are cracking on Memphis, the little crossover there, and whoever else you want to add into that mix. So yeah, I mean, it's a sorry day for Memphis fans, that's for sure, because this goes all public, and it's a public rejection of about the highest order, and especially in light of you being the one that's offering all of this and still being told no. And then, now you're going to get dunked on social media. But Amanda Kristovich had another part of this. She said the Big 12 board was not interested in a proposal to add Memphis. Offer included about $200 million and promised sponsorship. So again, like I said, the reaction, I think, is, it's all this cash. It's like it's cash eventually, but it's through sponsorships. But either way, it's money. So I get that. But here's the line that I found the most interesting from her was the proposal didn't reach a vote, as it was clear relatively quickly the interest wasn't there.
Yeah, which means you got to get 12 of 16 yeses, which means they may not have even gotten to half that number, whether it's 4, 6, or 8. Lorenzo Hayes in the chat, guys, ESPN isn't going to pay the Big 12 enough to take Memphis anyway.
Sure, yeah. I mean, there's money considerations. I guess you could offset some of that with the money that they're going to be giving you. But yeah, I mean, there's reasons as to why. I think I guess when I asked at the beginning of the show, it's like on the surface, if you just look at it, it's like, hey, it's extra money. But yeah, when you drill down into it, yes, that's a primary reason I would imagine as to why is ESPN's going, we're not giving you anything for Memphis. Are you crazy? And they're not just going to say, I mean, that's the part about realignment stuff. You're like, let's add this team and that team and this team and that team. And you go, okay, well, first of all, like 24 teams is ridiculous. The travel's insane. That's kind of silly. But then there's, most importantly of all, the driver of everything, and that's the money component. So, yeah, go add 6 teams and then tell ESPN they're going to have to pay you for those 6 teams, or Fox, and they're going to say, go screw yourself. We didn't agree to that. So,
you're going to have one more team, another percentage out of your TV. Well, they say they wouldn't take that, though.
Yeah, but even still, so they're just going to come in. But now you have to, if you're ESPN and Fox, but you still have to find a place for those games. Right. So that's still work. That's labor that you have to do. You have to go in and say, all right, well, here's, we have to do this. We have to put this here. We have to put this here. There'd be a lot here's the thing. They're not going to take a distribution, and they probably shouldn't have to, given the fact that I'm sure year one, most of Memphis's games would be on ESPN Plus, because it would be so much of work to slide them into those spots.
Here's a couple of possibilities here. I did reach out to some people in college football to try to get their idea about why is Memphis always left at the altar if they even get there. The problem with Memphis that they fight on occasion is anytime they do something big, it seems to be followed with an NCAA investigation.
Currently basketball, yeah.
NCAA investigations can last 3 to 4 years. We looked at them before. If you think about it, we had people on the expansion committee. Here's the problem. We took 4 schools. I don't think that even they were 5th. So that's from somebody that knows the inside of when the last time. And not sure, no matter what, even though Memphis is the city itself, if they take it up or get enough pull when it comes to the next TV negotiations, which will be at the end of this decade. Well, so that's from somebody that kind of it has been a part of the growth. And we'll have Justin Walters in just a second.
I think that's a good clip, by the way, guys, is what he just got there and passed along in regards to Memphis and getting some anonymous Big 12 word on them. But, yeah, to Lorenzo's point, though, yeah, if they're not – TV matters, but, yeah, they're also agreeing to not take any money. So there's a more concise explanation to kind of, I guess, give us some of the details as to why. But that's a fair point, Lorenzo. But, yeah, they apparently weren't going to take any money, so I guess that kind of rules that out. But, yes, there would also be some logistics to that would probably be something you're not that interested in having to deal with.
Justin Walters, the ACC Network, joins us on 365 Sports. Justin, obviously want to talk ACC, and we will. But did you see the report about Memphis wanting to spend what could have been $250 million to join the Big 12, take no money for 5 years, and it seems like every summer there's at least something, although the Big 12 never even got to a point where they voted on this. It's a no.
Does someone know something about the Memphis alumni and donors that I don't? Are they rolling that deep like SMU?
FedEx, baby.
FedEx and Lowe's. Yeah, but not the I don't know about individually other than those big businesses. I don't know, Justin. That's a bunch of money. And then to say we don't want any in return for 5 years. That's a ton.
Man, that's a lot of cash you're leaving on the table. I don't think I would sign up for that at all. If you're the conference, of course you would. But Memphis, I think they should dial it back just a little bit, because think about where the landscape of college football is right now. There's so many things that are changing and everything is fluid. 5 years, we don't even know how many teams are going to be in the playoff in 5 years, let alone what NIL is going to look like.
We don't know how many teams are in the playoff next year. So, golly. All right, the ACC. They had their drama last summer and lasted for quite some time. Seemed to be, at least for now, quiet, but you never know. Power structure. Give me your 4 teams in the ACC who could, although maybe it's just 1 or 2, or maybe can get to the college football playoff, in your opinion.
Okay, I like that. I think it's pretty simple. My top 3 are probably Clemson, SMU, and Miami. And then if I'm going to give you a 4th, I think a sleeper would be Louisville. Clemson, for all the reasons we already know. Cade Klubnik balled out. He had a spectacular season. The last game that we saw him last year was arguably the best game that any quarterback has had against Texas. And he's just continued to put all the tools together. And I really do think that Clemson will be possibly one of the top 4 teams standing, not just being in the college football playoff. I really like SMU. For me, the big thing is, who are their playmakers going to be? You lose a player like Brashard Smith. They bring in Chris Johnson, for all of those Tennessee Titans fans, bring in his son. Maybe he could be that every down back, but I still want to see who is going to be the star back out of the backfield because Brashard Smith added so much. I think the defense is going to be fine and they'll be in the mix. Of course, you have to mention Miami, but I just don't know how healthy Carson Beck is and who's he going to be throwing to when you look at all the receivers and star firepower that left from Miami. And then Louisville, if you look at Brom and what he's been able to do with Plummer, Tyler Shuck, and now Miller Moss coming from USC, I mean, he struck gold every single time. And then speaking about star backs, Isaac Brown had a spectacular year as a freshman. So him coming back, they have a lot of question marks in the secondary. They pretty much retooled everything in that defensive back area. Quincy Riley's gone. When you think about pass rushers, Ashton Gelati also gone off to the NFL. But I think those are probably the top 4 teams, just eye test wise. I don't know what you guys feel, but I think those are probably my top 4 in the conference.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Pitt, and they were undefeated with Eli Holstein last year and winless without him. If Eli Holstein plays, this team is obviously clearly a very tough out. When he doesn't, they weren't. I don't know if they're in that top 4, but they could certainly like jump up and bite some people.
They're in top 8 range. I love Cade Bell, the new offensive coordinator, or not so new, second year now. And Eli Holstein and him clicked. Desmond Reed was spectacular out of the backfield for that team. I still remember watching that game being glued, Pitt against West Virginia. The backyard brawl lived up to the hype in every single fashion, every single sense of that brawl and the history that they had. Eli was spectacular last year. At this point last year, fellas, being here at kickoff in Charlotte, we were interviewing Nate Yarnell, and we're like, all right, I guess Nate is the guy. And here comes Eli stealing the job week 1, and then he just took it by the reins. But I do think Pitt can make some noise, but maybe it's just waiting and seeing how they go about it, because to start the season at red hot and then to embarrass Syracuse the way they did, be in the national headlines, and then take a precipitous fall, I just feel like that can carry over and linger into the following season. And because of that, I'm not saying it's going to be a complete blanket of how Pitt is going to play, because I do trust Pat Narduzzi, but I do think because they had that precipitous fall, I want to see how this season is navigated.
Justin, how much of a revelation do you think SMU was for maybe yourself, but for most people in the ACC who didn't quite know what to expect about this team from Texas buying their way in and this and that, and then here they are in the championship game in year 1 and highly competitive and in the playoff? What do you expect from the Mustangs moving forward? And is the rest of the ACC now very well aware of how the Ponies operate?
I think they've been put on notice. You couldn't have asked for a better first year for Rhett Lashley and his bunch. They go from the death penalty to the first year of a 12-team playoff. They're firmly in the mix. They lost the ACC championship game to Clemson. It was a great finish, not the best start by Kevin Jennings, but he still had his team battle all the way back. That Penn State game was super lopsided, but if we're focusing just on the positives of the noise that they made, going undefeated in the conference and just how they were able to win. And I look at some of the games last year, there was some hesitancy when they started off losing that game, or they won the game against Nevada. They lost it early on to BYU. Maybe not their best performance because Preston Stone started it and then Kevin Jennings came out. But I really like the group that Rhett Lashley's put together. He hit the transfer portal hard. He knows the players he wanted to find. Some people called them the mini Miami because of Rhett Lashley's time there. And he found players like the aforementioned Brashard Smith, who was able to make a huge impact. This year, RJ Maryland is going to have to be huge. The tight end got hurt earlier in the season, and that was one of the top targets for Preston Stone at the time, in addition to Kevin Jennings. I think he's going to be one of the top guys. Once again, not sure who's coming out of the backfield. The defense is going to be set. But I think SMU is going to be firmly in the mix. Their schedule, though, it's trickier. They now have to play some of the top teams. Everyone wanted to dissect their schedule and say, well, they didn't play any of the top teams. You can only play based off of all these conferences and just more people being added to the pool. I can't play every team. Now this year, they get a chance to play some of the top teams. They do have a regular season game against Clemson. So maybe the ACC championship game is a rematch. However it shakes out, you're not going to say you're not seeing some of those top teams on the schedule because the Mustangs have to bring it from day one.
By the way, Justin is in the city where they're hosting the ACC Media Days. Appreciate you giving us time today because I know you have a production meeting in less than an hour. How much of a difference would you say the tone is today compared to this time last year when you had 3 or 4 teams that were obviously trying to get out? And maybe they still are, but it did seem to be very, very volatile.
I think it's simmered down. It's not even a storyline. Last year, maybe people were walking on eggshells. You're like, okay, is this the last ACC kickoff that Florida State is going to be at? Maybe Clemson follows suit. We heard all the rumors about other schools wanting to hop into the lawsuit. But right now, honestly, I don't think it's a storyline at all. I haven't even given it much thought. And maybe that's because I'm more on the player side. I'm going to be doing a bunch of reporter interviews in addition to some of the coaches. But yeah, it's probably merely just a footnote. There will be stories written about it, about coming into this season and what the buyout would be, but I'm not paying any attention to it.
I'm curious about your thoughts on NC State. They have CJ Bailey at quarterback, a young guy that they really like. I mean, they see a lot of potential in him. Dave Doran is a really good coach, but the last couple of years have just not gone his way for whatever reason, whether it's injury or transfer portal or all that. Do you see them riding the ship enough to where we can see an NC State that is one of those teams in the ACC that people are afraid of again, because they're classically a headache for most of the teams?
Man, that's a tough one because CJ Bailey showed a lot of promise. He put up numbers that we haven't seen since Phillip Rivers. It was highs and lows. And that's what you'd expect from a true freshman that was thrusted into his first start, I'm pretty sure, was against Clemson at Death Valley. While it wasn't a night game, it's like, wow, you want me to start here for my college career? And we went into last season saying, like, is this the year NC State's finally going to get to double digits? And they didn't have that. This year, they now have a new OC in Kurt Roper. I think the familiarity of having Kurt as the quarterback assistant last year, and now he's still with CJ Bailey, that gives him some familiarity, knowing that CJ doesn't have to relearn a system in addition to cadences. I want to know who the top target's going to be. Probably Justin Jolie. Casey Concepcion has left. It feels like this team has always wanted to run the ball, but they just haven't been able to get any type of progress in that department. So I think that NC State is going to have some opportunity this year, but I'm not going to go out there and make a bold statement to say that this is the year Dave Doran is able to get to double-digit wins, or CJ Bailey is going to be one of the young rising stars. I liked what I saw from CJ Bailey, but I will tell you one thing about NC State. We're going to find out a lot about this team after their first game. Yes, that's what you can say about every single team, but them playing against ECU, knowing that's the same way that they lost against them last season, that is a huge rivalry. NC State, that is a must win. Simple as that. We're going to find out a lot. If they lose that game, people are going to be quick to come after Dave Doran.
Justin, do you think North Carolina can be interesting enough on the field to take any of the spotlight away from the off the field stories?
Keywords on the field, right?
Yeah.
Because we have some interesting storylines off the field. I have no idea what is going to happen at Chapel Hill. There's part of me that says, all right, you have one of the greatest coaches of all time. He's a mastermind, but there's only been a few coaches that have been able to do that, both in the pro and collegiate level, Pete Carroll being one of them. I just don't know how things are going to shake out. I don't know who's going to be playing quarterback for them. I've seen what they've been able to do in the transfer portal, but I still feel like there are a lot of parts that are trying to be put together, and just the college landscape is different. Like, Bill has his resume and track record, but he's in a complete, it's like, all right, if you're a specialist of fish, that doesn't mean you can be able to make steak really well. And right now, he's in a completely different department, and he's trying to find the right groceries to put something together. I still think it's going to be like a wait and see approach. I just don't know what's going to go on. But I'll tell you one thing. You said interesting. I'm going to be intrigued. Labor Day, before Labor Day, past Labor Day, all of that. Any primetime game that they have, College Game Day. I know our ACC Huddle crew is going to be out there, hopefully, for a few games. I'm going to be intrigued.
So my question for you is how important is it for Florida State to be Florida State? How much would that give the conference a goose? Because obviously they have, my God, they've been good forever and ever. And then, of course, they just fell flat last year, the disappointing for the year before that. How much would it give that conference a boost if they could get back to that 9, 10+ win seasons?
It'd be massive. I looked at their schedule coming into this ACC kickoff. I haven't put a finger on it. I'm still going back on how many wins that I think that they'll be able to accumulate this year, but massive. When you have the brand names that are excelling and thriving, back when Jordan Travis was there not too long ago, it means everything. You need those players and those power makers to thrive for the conference to have a better reputation. Florida State opens up the season against Alabama, against the Crimson Tide. I'm not saying they have to win that game, but there has to be some remote decency or better progress that we saw from last year, a 2-win team. I think Thomas Castellanos is going to be pretty good. Him being reunited with Gus Malzahn, I just don't think that TC's talents were used in the best way when he was at Boston College. We know that it wasn't a pretty ending, but I still want to see who TC's top target's going to be. But he's a dual threat quarterback. When he was at his peak powers, when we saw some of those explosive games, even when they were in contention against Missouri last year, we know he's a great dual threat quarterback. At times, he was called a diet Kyler Murray. I do think that Florida State needs to thrive for this conference to have a better reputation, in addition to the ACC just winning some of those big games against the SEC or any other conference, so they'd have the reputation to say that, okay, we can once again get multiple teams in the college football playoffs. So handling business against LSU, that'd be Clemson. Obviously, you have Syracuse playing Tennessee. I know that's more of a far-fetch. Notre Dame has a couple of good games, and then Florida State handling business, whether it be against Alabama or any other top foes that they play, like Florida.
Justin, as an alum, I look. I'll take diet Kyler Murray. I'll take Timu Kyler Murray. I'll take repurposed robot Kyler Murray. I don't care. They just have to be better than they were, and part of it, I do think, is they let the psychology of the team was all wrapped up in that snub, and they never once from the administration to the coaching staff on down got over it. Even though it was like once the season started, there's nothing you can do about last year anymore, and it just permeated through every decision they made, transfer portal, roster building, all of that, all throughout, and 2-10 is a byproduct of that.
Trust me, I know it was tough for you as an alum working with EJ Manuel. It was tough with him watching those games. And the way the season started, I didn't think it was a layup to say, like, hey, you guys were going to beat Georgia Tech. Mm-hmm. But I will say this is rock bottom, or it feels like it. There's only one place to go from here, and it's going to be up. I do think that you guys are going to win more than 2 games. That is for sure. But once again, going back to under center with Thomas Castellanos and seeing some of the reasons why Norvell was really intrigued by him, in addition to reuniting him with Gus Malzahn, is what TC was able to do against you guys when you were going perfect and you had Jordan Travis. That was a close game. Man.
His two best games of his career. The loss that they took, which with not for a face mask penalty at the end of the game, Boston College gets another shot with a ball. And then, of course, the second game last year where TC ran all over him. 2 best games in his career against the Seminoles.
Yeah, hands down. And yes, a quarterback isn't going to be the magic wand that fixes all of the losses and the turmoil that happened last season. But you bring in another new coordinator in Tony White, who I'm a firm believer of is going to fix a lot of things. He's really good. I remember him when he was originally in the ACC at Cuse. He runs his 3-3-5 system. He's really solid, has a lot of respect. So it's a lot of change. It's just a matter of time. But I do think that there are going to be plenty of opportunities for you. And I will say one thing. We all know that DJU, we don't have to go down this rabbit hole, is a class act guy. We know what he did at Clemson, and obviously didn't work out in part 2 in the ACC. The offense will look better. Whether it's TC trying to just throw bombs, there will be more explosive plays, because a lot of times it felt like the offense last year was anemic, but that will not be the case this year. I do think that there will be a night and day difference in what the offense does and looks like in addition to producing.
Yeah, and he did an incredible job for Matt Rule in Nebraska. That's a tough loss for Nebraska, despite John Butler taking over, the former Buffalo Bills coach. So is Carson Beck elite or not? And that's my last question for you. And Justin, we do appreciate your time today.
Is he elite? Or when he's playing his best, he's elite, but he's coming off. Yeah, when he's playing his best, he's elite. It's unfortunate how the career turned out. And I'm not saying like he doesn't still have plenty of opportunities to play elsewhere and thrive in the NFL, but for him to try to complete a Hail Mary at Georgia and then now have Tommy John surgery, he has a great offensive line. I just don't know if the weapons are going to be even remotely close. That offense just did everything last year. Granted, because of the number 1 overall pick in Cam Ward, who was able to just be a magician out there, and he showed it to us in the very first game against Florida. But I do think that he is elite. Carson Beck is a great quarterback, but Tommy John surgery is tough. And there's going to be this learning curve, and he's going to try to do his best to get out there and just feel reps. He seems to be on target, and we're going to be speaking to him in addition to Francis Maui-Noah as well as Cristobal about how things look. But, yeah, he's elite when he's healthy.
Man, look forward to your coverage, Justin. Thank you very much. See you soon. Thank you.
Appreciate you, fellas. Thanks again.
Justin Walters with us, the ACC Network. We appreciate his time. We will have David Teel, who's on his way to ACC Media Days, get his feedback on some college football news and notes. Ralph Russo at just after 4 today. It's a Monday. Phil Bennett today at 5 and much more. And this is 365 Sports. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. Dr. Kent Petty can also help you with just regular family doctor. That's what you need. He can do that. If you have some kind of an illness or sickness, he can treat you for that too. But 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone that affects many things, including your mood, your energy, your sex drive, and that right there is enough. And he can help you out. Set it up. Contact him, PettyClinicLowT.com. He'll set you up to get your blood work. He gets the results. He will be in touch with you. And if you need a boost with your testosterone, he has options for you at PettyClinicLowT.com.
Big savings are waiting at Allen Samuels in Waco during the Make This the Summer event. Check out the all-new Jeeps that are arriving daily. Drive off in a 2025 Jeep Wrangler Sport for just $29,990. Or grab a new Jeep Compass Latitude for only $26,700. The road and trails are calling, and ramp up your summer in style with the Make This the Summer event at Allen Samuels.
Come by, let's be friends.
I'll never get used to this. I'll never get used to this. This is how I wanna live. Forever we'll be singing like, oh, I'll never get used to this. I'll never get used to this. I'll never get used to this. This is how I wanna live. Forever we'll be singing like, oh, I'll never get used to this.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Make this the summer event at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, where big plans start with the perfect ride at great deals. From weekend getaways to daily drives, your next new truck, SUV, or car is waiting.
Come by. Let's be friends.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
David Teel, Richmond Times-Dispatch, joins us. He covers the ACC, headed down, in fact, to cover the ACC in media days, and joins us while he's driving. David, thank you very much. If you don't mind, what were your thoughts, or what are what is your reaction to Memphis with $200 to $250 million trying to get themselves inside the Big 12, and they don't even take a vote and say no?
Money talks, and we heck, money is the reason SMU is in the ACC, right? So in realignment, if that's what you have to do to get into a power conference, I guess that's the price of playing poker.
David, are you surprised that I wouldn't be surprised. Would the ACC ever in a million years be interested in a school like Memphis?
I don't think the ACC right now is in a position where it wants to add anyone.
Yeah.
You know, they're sitting there at 18 basketball schools. 17 football, which is a little bit of an awkward number. These conferences, they're going to reach critical mass at some point, and expanding beyond 18, it just becomes so awkward from a scheduling standpoint, from a management standpoint, all of it.
David, I guess around this time last year, there's a lot of talk about obviously Florida State and Clemson and their futures and just the health of the ACC and all of these different things. Obviously, that's been settled to some degree for the meantime. But what do you think will be the big talking points of ACC Media Days this year? And does the league feel like it's in a different place or in a similar place?
I think the league, certainly the league administrators, campus and conference office feel better than they did a year ago when it was so contentious and so awkward. Clearly a storyline in Charlotte this week will be Bill Belichick and North Carolina. You don't bring in a 6-time Super Bowl head coach champion without creating a heck of a lot of buzz. And then you've got Clemson and Miami and SMU. I think they were the 3 best teams in the league last year, and for my money, they appear to be the 3 best teams in the league this year.
So, by the way, the Virginia Pilot and Newport News, where David Teel joins us on 365 Sports on his way to ACC Media Days. Is Clemson an overwhelming favorite to win, or is there enough from Miami and possibly SMU to make sure that's not one-sided?
Clemson is Scotty Scheffler.
Oh, my. Well, we know what that means.
I think the Tigers are very much an overwhelming favorite. If you look at the personnel on both sides of the football, you've got one of the, if not the best returning quarterbacks in the country in Cade Klubnik. You've got a first-team All-ACC wideout in Antonio Williams. You've got a first-team All-ACC tackle in Blake Miller. And you've got two of the best defensive linemen in the country in T.J. Parker and Peter Woods. It's a pretty stout group.
David, do you see anybody like a Duke, a Pitt, or someone being able, because they have some good quarterbacks there, to jump up, and Louisville maybe and kind of wreck the league?
I think Louisville and Duke, especially, Duke and Louisville and Clemson are the only three ACC programs that have won at least 8 games in each of the last 3 seasons. Clemson's obvious. I think most people would say, okay, I can see Louisville, but Duke is the sleeper in that group. And last year went 9-4 in Manny Diaz's first season on the sideline. They went in the portal. People think Duke doesn't invest in football. Well, they went in the portal and got one of the most coveted quarterbacks out there in Darian Mensah from Tulane. So clearly the donors and the administration in Durham are all in on football. They have one of the best defensive backfields in the league. Duke and Louisville both. Miller Moss at Louisville comes over from USC, and he's calling Lacey. The wideout is healthy again. They added a young man from Florida International who was first team All Conference USA last season, also at wideout. They've got some pieces now.
Fran Brown made things very interesting last year at Syracuse. How interesting do you think they will be this season? I know most previews assume they're going to take some step back, but it feels like the present's very bright and the future is as well.
Well, you win 10 games in your first season as a head coach, you're doing something right. And clearly Fran Brown did last season. I think Syracuse is going to take a big step back. No Kyle McCord, no LaQuinn Allen, no Gadsden to be catching passes. And perhaps most important, why Syracuse could take a big step back, the schedule.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Syracuse plays Clemson, Miami, and SMU all on the road. It's just brutal the way the rotation worked out for the Orange this season. And guys, just let me correct one thing I was saying about Louisville. The wide receiver I was referring to is Eric Rivers, and he did not transfer to Louisville. He transferred to Georgia Tech. And that is another team that could upset the apple cart in this league with Haynes King back at quarterback and Jamal Haynes back at running back. They've got some pieces. Kyle Efford, the linebacker. Brent Key is doing some work on the flats in Atlanta.
Hell, they were just a call away from beating Georgia and interrupting a lot of that. You mentioned the games on the road. They played Georgia Tech on the road and Notre Dame on the road. So they have pretty much, you would think, everybody that is competing for an ACC title, if in fact it is also Syracuse, those are all road games, not to mention the ones you said.
Yeah, no, it's really rough. And then on the flip side, a team I pay attention to, obviously, is the University of Virginia. The Cavaliers are the only ACC team that does not play Clemson, SMU, or Miami this season.
And they brought in Chandler Morris. Tony Elliott, does he kind of need to make hay while the sun shines this year, David?
Yes, absolutely. 3 consecutive losing seasons to start his tenure. And obviously some mitigating circumstances with the tragedy that happened near the end of his debut season. But still, there is a scoreboard and you have to win. And the Virginia administration and its donors invested heavily this offseason You mentioned Chandler Morris, the quarterback they brought in from North Texas, who is the number 2 returning passer in the country in terms of yards per game. And he's not the only one they spent some money on. They brought in a host of defensive backs and offensive linemen. And I wouldn't be surprised if, 15 to 17 of the 22 starters come the opener against Coastal Carolina are from that portal.
Yeah, I love the title in your article. Clemson tops the ACC's ballot, et cetera. But you said, yep, ACC's football version of Scotty Scheffler. What great timing to mention that as they are on the verge of opening up ACC Media Days. How many wins is Thomas Castellanos worth at quarterback at Florida State?
Great question. He wasn't worth a whole lot of wins at Boston College last year. Will the reunion with Gus Malzahn help him? Florida State is not going to be 13-1 good. Florida State, for Mike Norvell's sake, it better not be 2-10 bad. But to see a program go from those heights to those depths in just 1 year was absolutely jarring. But they've made the changes at the coordinator spots. I think the Seminoles will be markedly better. Now, how that translates, 7-8 wins.
Paul, you take that right now.
After
the suffering of last year.
Right now, if I could take that and somehow do the Men in Black, flashy thing where I don't remember 2024, that'd be just an amazing thing, David. Virginia Tech and Brent Pry, are they in a similar spot that Virginia is, or are they maybe a little bit? Does he have a little bit more leeway?
Actually, I think he may have less leeway, guys, because the expectations at Virginia Tech are much higher than they are at Virginia. If Brent Pry has a third consecutive 6-6 regular season, I think it's going to be a really hard sell to keep him. Now, if Tony Elliott were to get Virginia to 6-6 and bowl eligible, I think everyone would think of that as progress. I think Brent Pry is operating under far higher expectations in Blacksburg, and rightfully so. Virginia Tech, first and foremost, is a football school. UVA is not.
Man, it's good stuff, David. Enjoy the Media Days coverage. Safe travels as well, and thank you very much for giving us time this afternoon.
My pleasure, gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
David Teel. Glad you caught that, Garrett. The Virginia pilot and has been covering the ACC for the longest of time. By the way, for those of you watching us, whether on YouTube, 365 Sports, or also on Twitter at 365 Sports YT, thank you. If you haven't, please subscribe. We would appreciate that. Craig, why? Why do we ask everyone to subscribe if they're watching the show? We probably take it that they probably already have.
Because analytics have told us in the past that a large portion, like the largest portion of people watching, aren't subscribed. So, if you drive through here and you spend a few minutes often enough, feel like we do good enough work to entertain you here and there, then support us. And all you have to do is, you don't have to give us $250 million like Memphis, although that'd be great if you want to do that. We'll take the Memphis money. We will add Memphis into our collective, but the smallest thing you could do, or the best thing you could do, would be to click that subscribe button and the like button as well. And yeah, we would definitely appreciate that.
We do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Garrett Ross today is running the mothership. Brandon Rowe, he was out Friday. He's back in with us as he works on many things, including what we have the replay that's for the better segments or interviews tonight at 10:30 on the CW. And Andrew King Jiu-Jitsu Valade is back today after vacation. He's doing it. He's already put up a poll. Pretty good poll. Really good poll. Hope you voted on it. He'll have another one eventually, and we'll look at the results a little bit later on in the show today. Coming up next, Ralph Russo, theathletic.com, on many things college football. His thoughts about the Memphis offer to the Big 12 and more. And this is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco. And right now, membership's available that will help you enjoy football season even more so. But heck, even now, football season doesn't start till late in August. You have great amenities, fantastic food, lunch and dinners, and special events that they host depending on what time of the year it might be. The Baylor Club. Tell them 365 Sports sent you. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco.
The Make This the Summer event is on at Allen Samuels in Waco. And the deals on the 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab are flat out insane. 1.9% for 72 months or $12,000 off MSRP plus 3.9% for 72. Or go big with a massive $18,000 off MSRP. Your choice. Plus Ford, GM, or Toyota owners get another $1,500 off. Hurry to Allen Samuels in Waco, where Texas drives Ram.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
You never know when you start preparing for a show. We share all sorts of, we have a group text on stories and topics or tweets or guests, etc. And then, of course, the Memphis story that is out there with Ross Dellinger, Brett McMurphy, Amanda Kristovich, and others. And we hope we were able to get into that pretty well. And then even this story that was, guys, I sent you a little bit of a nugget over the weekend, but I didn't have enough to go with it. Here we go. How about this? Retzloff from BYU to Tulane. Per ESPN sources. I had a source that contacted me over the weekend, asked me to be quiet about it. But the good news is, it seemed like he's found himself a landing spot.
This is a good one to go play for John Sumrall in Tulane. They They were in the TJ Finley business for a little bit, and I don't think that is a good business to be in. He's flighty, as we know, and so he got in a little trouble with the car and everything. So they had that. They had the quarterback from Ball State. I think it was their number one going in. I think Jake Retzloff is a nice addition for them, and obviously they've vetted the Title IX situation and everything about him. So I'm glad he found a place to go, and I'm sure he's getting a nice little NIL check to be a walk-on because this is not a traditional transfer portal thing.
Yeah, I was told he's getting a really nice NIL check, and Jake Retzloff is now headed to play at Tulane. Ralph Russo joins us, theathletic.com. Ralph, we'll start with this. I want to get into the Memphis story too, but Jake Retzloff has a landing spot in New Orleans.
Yeah, I think an interesting spot because I think Tulane probably thinks it has the best roster in the now American, not AAC, in the American, even before he lands there. But as you guys were talking about, they just did we're just going to grab every quarterback we can and try to see which one sticks. That's no offense to like the freshman from Ball State, but they were definitely looking a little bit like, I wonder how things are going to work out at that position. Brought Brendan Sullivan in, who was at Northwestern and Iowa. Probably pretty good legs, but I don't know how much of a passer. But again, like they were continuing to add. Retzlaff is, I think, far more talented than what they've had. Now, there's obviously going to be some question about, hey, can you get that kid up to speed? Walking into your system in July, it might take a little while, but I think the talent is worth it there, especially if you think, and you've done the work behind the scenes to say like, okay, he's worth taking any kind of a risk on in terms of his personality and who he is and the baggage that he left behind at BYU.
Ralph, do you envision Tulane? Him being, because it is a really good coaching staff with John Summerall, him being able to come in this late in the game and hit the ground running?
So I don't think so. And I'm not sure that is the exact plan. I don't have their schedule in front of me. I believe they start off with almost all their non-conference games, and they've got some tricky ones. I think Ole Miss might be on there. I think Duke and their former quarterback might be on there. Mm-hmm. But if you think about it, like, can he start week one? Maybe you throw him in and have him start week one, but maybe what your thought is more the first month could be a little dicey, whether we use him or not. Like, even if we use him, well, then maybe he's not completely up to speed and ready to roll. And if we don't use him, or we sort of implement him a little more slowly, then we're not playing our best guy. But our goal is to win the conference. So if we can get through the first 3-4 games and then have him ready to really be up to speed when the conference games start, then we can be okay with that. Now that becomes a little tricky in terms of making the playoff. You don't have a chance for some of those big. You're not bringing your best in those non-conference games, but you got to win your conference to get to that playoff spot anyway. So yeah, I think maybe if you prioritize winning the conference, he could be part of that.
Yeah, and you were right. They play Duke at home week 3 and then at Ole Miss in week 4. So you nailed that part of it. The Memphis story that came out of kind of nowhere today about their massive offer, influx of money to the Big 12 from anywhere from $200 and $250 million, according to reports. And the breakdown of like sponsorships and how all that would work is still sort of fuzzy, Ralph, but basically they're trying to get into the Big 12 as much as they humanly possibly could, and the Big 12 has told them no. What do you think about the headline and the meaning for Memphis, and why the Big 12 said, hey, in a world where everybody's just grabbing money left and right, we don't want the money that you were offering?
So, yeah, a couple of things. And, yes, this kind of came out of nowhere, though. I know reporters say this a lot. It's not something that we hadn't been hearing about. I think it didn't become operational until more recently. There was this idea that Memphis was trying to, SMU their way into the Big 12. basically say we'll come in for nothing. So, take us that for that reason, and plus have a little something on top in terms of bringing some sponsorship deals. Here's the thing. So, I know $200 million sounds like a lot to us guys, but if you start looking at that over a 5-year period, split between 17 schools, you're talking about $2 to $3 million a school. Again, I'd take that. Like, $1 million here, $1 million there. You're almost talking real money, right, guys? But in the grand scheme of things, that's not really moving. I don't know if that's really moving beyond, really pushing the envelope for some of these schools. You're also looking at, hey, we're living through the transition of some of these American schools in the Big 12 right now. And it's a little hard, right? Do we want to bring in another school that's going to need 2, 3, 4 years to get up to speed, right? The first couple of years, other than BYU, the first couple of years of Cincinnati and UCF and Houston, football-wise, not basketball, but football-wise, have been a little rough. So now you assume Memphis is going to have to go through that transition. I think there's also another part of this, and it speaks to sort of like what's to come. And I do think schools are now looking at this and saying, well, wait a second. In 5 more years, there might be something different than what we have now. Every time I'm on this show, I feel like I bring up the term Super League, right?
Yep.
Why would we, the Big 12, want to, not the Big 12 conference, but the schools within the Big 12, want to elevate another school that could now be our competition for being part of whatever the next thing is? Like, what does the Big 12 get from elevating Memphis other than a few bucks? There's also a lot of other things going on that they probably have priorities on, right? House implementation. So I think there's a lot of reasons why all of a sudden, like, no offense to Memphis, but they just looked like, I think the Big 12 looked at Memphis and thought, like, we're not getting enough here to, like, really, just like you're benefiting from this relationship. I'm not sure we're benefiting from this relationship.
One of the things that I was told as well, Ralph, that I mentioned earlier in the show is that when they added Houston, BYU, UCF, and Cincinnati, and BYU has done very well in football, is that Memphis was a part of that discussion, but they may not even have been the 5th team. That was, if any of those other 4 would have not fit what they needed or said no, which I can't imagine, then Memphis would not even have been like the alternate. And they've got some problems with the NCAA, and they've kind of got some messes on their hand.
So Memphis does have a history of its greatest successes being followed by scandal. They have 3 Final Four appearances, and 2 of them have been vacated. Mm-hmm. Now, context matters there, and there's a lot of reasons why we can say, that was the old days. We shouldn't really worry about that. But nonetheless, it's part of the permanent record. Heard some similar stuff that, like you said, they vetted, and this is another reason why, like, this is a good point you don't put out. When after the OU Texas departure, they didn't just vet the 4 schools that they took. There was a larger vetting process. So there are folks within the Big 12 now who were part of that vetting process, and Memphis was part of that vetting process. There was about a half dozen more schools that sort of went through that vetting process. So they have a pretty good idea of what Memphis is all about. It's definitely a program that has, especially in football, it's really found its footing within the American over the last, 10, 11 years that it's been in there. Like, Memphis football is better than it's ever been before. Though, again, you do sort of have some trepidation about, like, what does that look like transitioning into a new conference where it's a lot tougher to be competitive. So, yeah, I think what you said is interesting, but I also think the key point of that is Memphis was something of a known quantity to the Big 12. And as you said, they passed on it then. So why do you go back? What's the selling point to now taking it?
Ralph Russo, theathletic.com, with us on 365 Sports. Paul?
Ralph, we are at an impasse when it comes to the 16-team playoff or the 12. Like, Do you think that there's a shot that this stays at 12 for a little bit longer than this just year, or do you think that we'll get to the 9-game, 8-game, like all these things worked out by December?
So I do think there's a shot. I do think, again, something that we've talked about previously on this show, like with the playoff situation, like one conversation can change everything. So trying to like project ahead to say like, oh, I think there's momentum this way, and I think this is important, and I think we're trending this way. Like we've done this now for about a year, trending this way, moving this way, momentum that way, and it ping pongs around because then 2 people or 4 people have a conversation, and all of a sudden the light bulb goes on, and one person says, you know what, I'm okay, let's do something else, and it changes the whole tenor of that conversation. So that's what makes it super hard to predict. I do think 12, I thought what was notable coming out of the SEC media days is Greg's, like, we have been hearing 12 could be the number. And even Greg back in the SEC spring meetings sort of gave a nod to like, but very sort of haphazardly said, yeah, anything's possible. So sure, 12 is possible. But the fact that Sankey came out and didn't just like, and really sort of assertively said that 12 is a place where listen, if we can't agree, we have a good thing. We could stay with what we got. To me, signaled that, oh, that's serious. Like that's not just speculation. That really could happen. And, it's frankly like, maybe that's a great thing. Maybe that's a good thing. Why are you messing with this thing anyway? I think there's a lot of people who kind of would think that like, you know what, no expansion. If what happens out of this is no expansion, then that may be the best thing for college football because not a lot of people outside of that room were clamoring for expansion. I will hesitate and say one other thing though. Like I do find the 12 thing to be people cutting off their noses to spite their face. And I do wonder if at a certain point, everybody looks around and says like, yeah, but we'd be better off with 16. Like if nothing else, 16 is better than 12 and it gets more of our teams in. So that's why I'm still hesitant to believe that they will just stick because I kind of get the feeling that ultimately they want more of their teams in. And the way to do that is to go to 16.
Ralph, ACC Media Days this week. There's other media days as well. And look, it's media days. I don't want to make it out to be more than it really is. But the ACC this time a year ago all talks about, like, are they going to stay together? Like, is this thing going to fall apart? And now it seems like they're in a different place because of, in part, the settlement. But Belichick and Syracuse's, rise and all sorts of other storylines. What intrigues you about the ACC, this week or this year?
Yeah, listen, we're going to have like a lot of Belichick, right? The interesting part about the Belichick story arc, of course, like for a while, it became the Jordan Hudson story arc, which in some way was good because it was the only interesting thing going on about that, right? Like Bill is not like, it's funny, like him being hired by UNC is incredibly interesting and drew a ton of attention and was a wow moment. But this is not Deion. He is not Coach Prime, right? So once the hiring part and the shock of it came, we sort of forgot about it. Like there was no story until the story came up, the related story with him and his girlfriend. Once the season it becomes a story again, because now we're going to see, will this actually work? Like, what does a Bill Belichick team look like in college? And can it win some games? And can it beat TCU? So that's the most fascinating thing within that conference. I think what happens at Florida State in terms of, ping-ponging from 12-0 to 2-10, where do they land in the middle here? What does that mean for Mike Norvell's future? By the way, they would owe him $60 million if they fire him. That doesn't seem likely. So, there's a lot of possibilities going on at Florida State. How does that bounce back? I think that there could be some very interesting, depth in that conference with Georgia Tech and Louisville being interesting teams. Duke kind of going all in, though I don't know if they're a conference contender. And, right at the top, it's Clemson trying to reclaim a spot, not just at the top of that conference, but at the top of the country. right? Can Clemson again be a national championship contender, not just an ACC contender?
Timothy Vermeer in the chat room. It's interesting. Ralph said, look into the futures 4 years from now, which you did. And that's when, like, the next time TV starts to get serious again and whatever else, super leagues, etc. Could you imagine the Big 12 with who they are today back at this time 4 years ago when Texas and Oklahoma story broke they were leaving the SEC?
Yeah, and that's it. Like, I think one of the reasons why I am always so hesitant to sort of project into the future here is because there's like, it's like, I think we are lacking imagination, right? To wonder where this all might be going. When it comes to, like, to bring it back to the Memphis story, like, I think one of the things that I think is probably a part of the selling point by Memphis is this idea of, like, hey, if you lose teams, like, what happens if so-and-so gets a promotion, or what happens if this team, like, then you're backfilling. That's something of what the ACC did, right? They were worried about the future of Clemson, Florida State, and some other schools. So you bring in SMU and these West Coast schools to make sure you're backfilled. So I imagine, to a certain degree, Memphis, and if you're in the Big 12, you might be thinking, do we need to do that? So, yeah, it's hard to imagine what the future might hold here, and which is, again, the reason why I am always hesitant to predict the future, whether we're going to have a Super League or a bigger Big 10, a bigger SEC, a Big 10, a Big 12 ACC conglomeration. You know, use your imagination. It's all on the board. I feel like it's possible.
Yeah, there's no question. Paul, you got anything else? Ralph, great to see you, man. What was your final take coming out of Big 12 media days? Because it does seem like they're in a pretty good place right now. They got challenges like everybody, but, well, maybe not the SEC and Big 10, but they do have challenges, but it does seem like they're in a pretty calm, good spot.
I think that's for a lot of these leagues now, but yeah. So I think the one thing the Big 12 is going for, I think there's alignment within the Big 12. Listen, I think everybody in the Big 12, if they got a call from the Big 10 or the SEC, would answer that call. But I do think that there is generally alignment, unanimity. Like, I think that's a league that has a pretty good idea of what they are, and all the schools look at each other and see a lot of similarities. That's good. Listen, their biggest problem is the elite end, right? Do they have a program that can sort of bust out of the pack and assert itself as a national championship contender? And I think whether that's just perception or reality, perception can be reality. I think that's the thing that the Big 12 is going to be fighting about. But in terms of, like, sort of being aligned and happy together and kumbaya, and, you know, I think there's a lot of that within the Big 12 right now.
Hey, man, great stuff as always, Ralph. Thank you for giving us your time today. Thank you.
Pleasure as always, guys. Thank you.
Ralph Russo, theathletic.com. Oh, I should have asked him. Is he still there, Garrett? Is he gone? Is he still on?
Still here. Still
so
here.
I saw your note that you ran the Associated Press, the poll, for how long, and now you're going to get a vote. Is that right?
Yeah. So for 20 years, yeah. For 20 years, when I was with the Associated Press, I was sort of like the lead administrator of the poll, right? Like, we don't vote at the Associated Press. Other sports writers vote. If you're an employee of the Associated Press, you don't vote. When I left the Associated Press to go to the Athletic, I was asked if I wanted to join the voter panel and be a voter for the first time in the Associated Press poll. So now, yeah, I've been spending a lot of my nights just, like, poring over a ballot, trying to figure out who the top 25 teams in the country are. And now, if people want to yell at me on Twitter because they think my vote stinks, that's actually true. I'm actually a voter, as opposed to in the past when people yelled at me and I would, like, hey, man, I just count them up. Don't ask me.
Good for you, man.
He
Enjoy.
finally gets to put his money where his mouth is. There we go.
It's hard. I'm worried. It's very, very hard.
Wear a bulletproof or dart-proof vest, because it's coming, Ralph. It's coming. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. That's it.
Thanks,
Ralph Russo, theathletic.com, with us on 365 Sports. We all have various votes for certain awards. Some, like the Heisman Trophy, is great, but I don't know if I'd want to do the AP poll. I don't know if because in the Heisman, it comes down to usually one or two names, and some people can get, this, especially on social media. But the AP poll, man, you got 25. I don't know if I could. I think I could do the poll. I think I would be okay with it. But, man, you got the entire country breathing down your neck. You just got to ignore, like some people should in the chat room when somebody gets to be raunchy, just block them, ignore them like we just did.
Yeah, I think it's always nice to talk to Ralph and get his insights and everything. I think he's right about just anything's on the table. I mean, there are some things that are just obviously not going to happen, but there's a lot that could happen in the coming years and all that. I wish that we didn't have to take social media into account for every thought that we have now of like, well, what would people think about every little thing that I might try to say publicly? And look, there's good that comes out of that. Like somebody saying something stupid that otherwise doesn't, but just having an opinion and going, oh God, I don't know if I want to put it out there because social media might get like, that sucks. That sucks. That's where we are. And that's why most of the time I'm not involved in it and don't care to share much of anything. So I know that that's not going anywhere and that's baked into the recipe at this point, but I'd much rather be an AP voter and just ignore whatever BS from social media than not be an AP voter because I'm worried about what social media is going to say.
Well, John McClain has the greatest of all philosophies. He told that a long time ago. I've gotten better at it. Not perfect, but he just doesn't look at his replies. Just doesn't do it. And he's got thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people because he's a great columnist in covering the NFL and more.
I mean, I eventually did that myself. I up until today when I retweeted the Memphis story, I realized I had not put out a tweet in nearly 2 weeks. And I used to be on it like all the time. And it doesn't really, like I'm on it during the show and I'm looking at it throughout the day, but I've just made a concerted effort to not live on it because I see people who just become miserable and just far too into it and kind of don't realize like, hey, like you get out now, like you need to take some fresh air kind of thing. But no, I think there's a lot of value to it. And once football starts, I'm going to be a lot more involved in tweeting stuff out again when we get into that part of it. But I'm just saying that because if anybody's tried to at me in the last 2 weeks, I just haven't looked. It's not anything personal. I truly have not looked.
If you send me a DM or tweet at me, I usually respond, but I don't tweet enough to where people do that a lot.
Yeah.
So like that also helps. Like you're not.
And we're terrible because we should be doing that all the time to promote and that's what you see a lot of guys doing. They're just talking, but I'm just not interested in doing that.
I like putting our stuff out and people comment on it if they want. And if that's fine to me.
Well, okay. I wish I would have saved this and sent this to Garrett. So someone who was a guest on our show then tweeted out that he was a guest on our show and also our segment that we put up.
I did.
And Paul, I was so proud of you. Paul, did one of those, what do you call it?
Images. A GIF. I said,
hey, we're there too. Because they put at David Smoak. They didn't use either Paul or Craig, which it frustrates me too, guys, that they don't use all of us.
And the other thing is they tagged, the only reason I did that is they tagged a couple other Big 12 people that aren't a part of the interview at all.
No.
I don't know. They tagged them so that they could see it. But at the same time, it's like,
well, they might have been promoting something we did, and yet they didn't promote the fact that you and Craig were a part of it.
Hey, well, I mean, these guys weren't part of that interview. There's two other guys that were sitting there that were. I mean, just, I'm not desperate for attention, but like when we do get it, I want to make sure it's accurate.
Yeah.
So.
All right, we've got some headlines. We mentioned Retzloff going to Tulane. We mentioned the Memphis story. We've got to get to some other headlines after we take a break right here.
Yeah,
we got a lot to get to.
We're going to get back to Retzloff, and I have some thoughts because I didn't get the chance.
Let's do that. Let's do that along with some odds about the Big 12, the Big 10, and others, and some other stories too. This is 365 Sports.
Allen Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go and international and missionary military travel is one of their unique specialties. Allen Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
All right, so we got to go look back at a headline that was otherwise, normally we would have had really very near the top of the show, the Memphis story and them wanting to get themselves and buy themselves into the Big 12 that didn't work out. Here's the Jake Retzloff transferring BYU to Tulane. Everybody knows the story. And Craig, you didn't get a chance to give some feedback on this, and then we'll get to some other college football news.
Yeah, I'm just glad there's a resolution here. The speculation can die off, and it was fun there for a couple of weeks to try to project where he may go and who might be affected by that. But glad that he's found a spot. I don't know about y'all, but I do feel weird. I don't know how much to be like encouraging about Jake Retzloff given – the situation that brought him here, but I hope all that's in his past and he's, as innocent of any malfeasance or he had sex with a girl. Like that's what got him beat. So like, I hope that was just the extent of it. Truly, we'll never probably know because they've all now moved on. And so if that was all that was, and it wasn't anything more nefarious, then best of luck to him. And I hope he has a great final year in New Orleans. And I'm sure, just talking about how I haven't been on social media much, and I don't blame at all those who are, but just saying, like, so for example, I'm sure I've missed out on somebody pointing the connection of Provo to New Orleans and how wild that is of a change up for him to go from school where drinking's not allowed to town where all people do is drink all day long. It's just kind of a little wild change in where he's going to be living for the next year. So yeah, couldn't have gone to 2 different places over the last 2 schools that he's been at than from Tulane to BYU or BYU to Tulane. So that's just kind of funny to me. But yeah, really crowded quarterback room. I mean, clearly they feel like they don't have the guy in their room right now if they're adding him at this point in time. And it's not like they're adding him because he's some all-world 5-star top 5 pick in the next NFL draft. He's a good player, but BYU didn't just win because of him last year. That's why you don't think they're going to really make much. It's not going to make much of a difference for them big picture-wise that he's not the quarterback. It's probably going to matter because they're very inexperienced, but it's not like he was the part of the pie to the extent of like, oh, wow, they're totally screwed.
I don't think they're going to be 2-10.
No, absolutely not.
I don't think they're going to do that.
I mean, if they don't make a bowl game, that would be shocking. I feel like they'll firmly still be about where they were, maybe take a little bit of a dip, but Tulane, that quarterback room just seems like an absolute mess. I mean, if you're one of those guys who's already transferred in, and now you see this news, you're like, what in the hell? So that'll be
the next thing that gets it's a lawsuit.
That'll be an interesting quarterback competition coming up here over the next couple of weeks. So we'll see how that shakes out, and if he does in fact win the starting job.
Yeah, so the next thing you're going to see as an NCAA lawsuit is that somebody transfers to a school, and then somebody, while he's at that school, somebody else transfers that plays the same position. He wants to leave, and the NCAA is going to say, no, you can't because of timelines, et cetera. And eventually everybody can leave whenever they want.
Well, I don't think so because they're striking down a lot of things here recently.
Yeah, the kid from Wisconsin. And you wonder, does that come back at all? Does the NCAA have a lawsuit against Pavia?
Well, it's not the same thing. He's Pavia sued over JUCO years. This kid's suing over D2, D3 years. They're under the NCAA. NJCAA is not under the NCAA.
I would know that. Yeah,
that's
I'm a
the
JUCO
difference.
guy. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's JUCO. So, like, you're worried about the JUCO guys all of a sudden going, well, I want my 2 years, and I want my 2 years, or whatever they played. But, yeah, if you suddenly allow D2, D3 who are under the NCAA umbrella, then that would be just – I mean, you can't allow that to happen because it would be never-ending. So that's the difference. When I've seen people point that story out, well, like, here you go. No, it's two completely different things.
What's the deal with Ashton Hawkins? What? I know he's
nothing.
It's the same thing. It's not JUCO. It's just
he's playing the waiting game. Okay. I mean, he's tweeted about it a little bit last week. I think he had been told based on, and this is just me trying to pull context clues because it was very vague, but he was retweeting some things about some guys getting another year or whatever, and kind of saying that, and he kind of intimated in those tweets that he was expecting something soon, but the NCAA doesn't care about your timeline at all, so they'll get to it when they get to it. That's always kind of been their thing, and yeah, I wouldn't get my hopes up if I were him.
He did play one season of JUCO, but I don't know like where his case is, and I've seen soon so often that soon's run out of its meaning because soon was 5 weeks ago, and I think soon's somewhere in the next couple of weeks is soon to me, not 5-6 weeks. So it has to be soon though now. I mean, it has to be because the season's upcoming. So it's one thing to not hear it in the middle of the summer, kind of where we are right now. But yeah, I mean, the calendar's going to turn to August and they're going to have to know something one way or the other for him. And I do think that whether the JUCO thing comes into play or not, I just think the whole situation sucks that the NCAA clearly had somebody who was not paying attention, just clear the guy for an extra year and then go, oh, wait, crap, I crossed the T when I meant to dot the I. And it's like, well, you just threw his whole world into flux because here's a guy who otherwise is preparing to leave college, go play pro football, or at least attempt to, and now you're telling him he could have go back to college, so he did, and now you're telling him, oh, wait, we made a mistake, now you can't do that. I just think that's an awful situation you put him in, and I don't know that you can set this precedent where now you go, well, we should allow him. So maybe the JUCO thing is what solves it. I don't know. But, yeah, that was the big difference in the Pavia case versus like the who was it? The
guy from Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, yeah. Like that.
By the way, on Ashton Hawkins, Dave Aranda at Big 12 Media Day said that they expect him to be a part of the team this fall. Now, that could be just hope. I'm not sure. Scotty B is his agent.
Clearly, yeah,
he is absolutely.
I mean, I see him saying, tweeting at the NCAA, saying, "I want justice for Hawkins and good for you, Scotty B." But
I don't know if he's getting any kind of a stipend or any kind of cut, but he is absolutely. Scotty
here's the other thing, though: if you're the player and you've lost your case at this point, you better kind of move on because you've got a month. Less than a month of the season, and unless you really don't have any other prospects,
I'm sorry.
I mean, I think you just gotta go.
The 29th is when, for example, I don't know about other schools, but like Baylor has you arrive on the 29th, practice on, or check in the 29th, practice on the 30th. You're now 9 days away, 8 days away. So we'll see if anything else clears with Ashton Hawkins.
I think with him, he could miss a few practices and be okay. I mean, he was there last year.
He's a good player too. Yeah,
he's a good player. He's been around obviously long enough to even be a debate about his eligibility. So I don't think him being right there at the start is super important. You'd love him to be there at the start, though, obviously. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, they screwed him over. They really did with whatever slip up in decision-making they had when they decided to clear him. That was not his fault. That was not the school's fault. That was entirely the NCAA going, oops, we made a mistake. And I don't know how you handle that if you're them. I think you've got to give him his year back because you told him, but then I know that also, turns into, well, what about me? And so, yeah, it's just an awful situation that should have been avoided to begin with.
By the way, the Eddie George interview that we put back up over the weekend got a lot of good stuff. We appreciate a lot of the feedback we got from Eddie George and Vincent from Bowling Green. You had a good show today when you had David Teel on, the veteran who's covered that East Coast forever and, of course, ever.
Well, I know we had an ACC guy last week say, well, what about ACC? And we said, well, media days will get here and we'll talk about the ACC. And so now media days are here when we're talking about the ACC a little bit, and they're definitely in a much different place, much like the Big 12. That Memphis story is, just wild stuff. I mean, like Ralph said, there's things in the background that you hear about or whatever, but some of it just never turns into anything, or it takes a really long time to turn into something. And for this, though, it did feel kind of out of nowhere, regardless of what he said. And I thought it was super fascinating. The Big 12 decided to pass on that money in an era where everybody's just grabbing money as fast as they can. But it makes sense when you break it down, like we've talked about, and we could continue to talk about it. It makes sense why they didn't pull the trigger. So now I'm interested to see what Memphis now has as far as their options go, because I don't think it's going to be the ACC. So,
no.
So I guess you just keep stockpiling and hope for 2030 that it'll all somehow maybe finally fall in your favor, or you're just where you are. And that's the reality that you eventually just have to meet.
They do have an odd number of teams in the ACC.
Because of Notre Dame.
But then Notre Dame, but see, like what David Teel said made a lot of sense. If you're just thinking about football, then it makes sense. But if you then want to add their basketball team, then your football problem, which was they have an odd number of football teams, now becomes your basketball problem because now you have 19 basketball teams. So, do you trade the basketball problem for a football solution for Memphis?
No,
that's where it is. And look, as an actual Memphis native, I should care more. I know, but I left when I was 3. I hope for good things for the school. I hope that it all works out for them. I just don't know that you can just will yourself into it or buy yourself into it now. It just everything's kind of set.
SMU did, but they're different.
But they also got in. They picked at a conference that was desperate,
right time,
almost reeling.
The right time.
They got the Big 12's not desperate at all. Like they feel very confident in who they are and where they're at, as when the ACC was trying to get teams to ensure that they could keep their television contract if they lost this lawsuit.
Yeah. But the Big 12 in the fall of 21, the summer and fall of 21, they weren't desperate, but they were scared to death. And even then, Memphis,
I would
maybe,
say, yeah.
All right, but even then, Memphis was a part of that conversation. But as I have told you, a couple of different people have told me that they weren't even the 5th school that would have been chosen had any of the 4 that came to the conference had said no or did not make it.
Well, let the speculation begin. Who was number 5 and how far down the list was Memphis?
It was Ohio State.
Yeah. Well, no, Clemson and Florida State are joining first, guys, remember? And then it's going to – no, so I'm just kidding.
Well, maybe it was Boise. I don't know. By the way, Vincent Bradis, who is from Bowling Green, the SID, goes – he worked with David Teel quite a bit when he was the SID at Virginia.
Oh, nice.
And he also, over the week, over the summer, talked to Eddie George. Now, a couple of other notes in college football. Garrett, you lead the way, sir. Odds for Big 12 teams to make the college football playoff. K-State slightly ahead of both Texas Tech, Utah, and Arizona State. Little drop-off. And then there you see. Not all league teams, of course, listed, but those are the ones who are at the top of, if they make the college football playoff, that right now from Circus Sports, that's who would make it at the top.
I'm surprised Iowa State doesn't get better odds considering they have a returning quarterback and they were in the title game.
They were, and they're favored to be back in the title game, but none of them thought they'd win it.
They were my wild card Big 12 pick a few weeks ago.
I mean, it's weird that they And I get it. It's because of their history. When they have expectations, it kind of dips.
Well, you also just lost a couple receivers to the NFL, and people see that and they go, "Oh, well, you can't replace that."
But I think they can. I
know,
think it's
but people
different,
that don't believe that.
Yeah, exactly. And look, Higgins and Noel were kind of unique in that. I don't think they've ever had two of those guys at the same time. I mean, they've had like Hakeem Butler was a big time guy for them, and Alan Lazard, and they've had them, but they never really had two of them. They had two of them there at the same time, and kind of homegrown. So now it's a little bit different. But look, Rocco Beck's one of the better quarterbacks in my opinion in the entire country, and especially in the fourth quarter, he's really good. He's really good in close games, which is the entire league. So I would give him. I would give them better odds than Utah, and I get why you're picking Utah. I'm big on Utah as well, but I know more about what I think Iowa State could be than I do about Utah. Really,
well, Utah is going to be the one that could potentially turn this thing the opposite direction of the way it turned it all wacky last year.
Yeah,
to where now everybody's like, well, they aren't going to win it, and then they go and win the league this year. I mean, I could see that happening. I know plenty of folks. Especially in blue, feel like Utah's like they're not going to be as good or whatever. That's the hope for sure. But I don't know. I've got faith in Kyle Whittingham to right the ship, and I just think last year was just such a weird year with the whole Rising situation. So I think they're going to be much improved and much more successful, and to the point where I could see them contending. I don't think you can really rule out too many teams. Ultimately, I think there's 2, 3, 4. And depending on who you ask, maybe one or two others that you go like UCS not winning the league. Like I feel very confident in saying that UCS not winning the league.
They just won the Big 12.
So I mean, for example, them, and I'm not going to pick on them, but I just think that's a pretty easy thing for me to say and feel pretty confident about. Now, beyond that, I think the majority of the league does have a shot to be in the mix, and you see, I mean, here's half the league on this graphic alone, so. I think we're in for a really interesting year because nobody truly knows. There's not much separation to allow us to really know too much.
Big Ten. You could pretty much guess who's going to be the 1, 2, or 3.
The one thing, K-State on top, though, I feel like they're not getting enough love. Like for them being on top of a lot of these things, they're
not?
I just maybe I'm just not hearing the right podcast, or I'm not because I think when I listen to people talk about the Big 12, it's Texas Tech. It's Utah's big resurgence. It's Arizona State just running it back. And then there's either your Iowa State, your TCU, your Baylor. And I think Kansas State falls in more of that grouping to me as far as the feedback that I hear.
Okay.
So it's just interesting to see them on top.
I just think that everyone's so used to them probably being 1 or 2 that they just say, okay.
They kind of get plugged in there, yeah.
Quarterback with Avery Johnson, and the Kansas State's pretty much like, you can kind of always count on them to be in the mix. Big Ten. The poll, first of all, this gives me a damn headache looking at 18 teams. I would be with my ADHD, without 4 Adderall, I could never get through 8. I could never get through them. But there's the poll, first of all, and how it came out.
Our 5.5-hour team by team Big 12 breakdown, our Big 10 breakdown will air on Wednesday. No, I'm just kidding. We're not doing that.
Garrett, you're laughing. I mean, seriously.
No, that was funny as hell.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't. I'm jeez.
I'm going to tell you something, Smokey. It's going to make you. I said it on the top 5 on Friday.
The Huskers.
Huskers are too low. I think they're going to be better than that. And I think Iowa is too low. I think that one of those teams up there might take a little bit of a dip. I think Ohio State's a 3-loss team this year. I think they're going to lose 3 games. Now, I do think that they're going to be back in 26, but I think they're a 3-loss team this year.
Okay.
So Ryan Day's getting fired.
Sharice in the chat might just be, we might have to nuke her.
You know the last time they lost 3 games?
It's been a very long time.
I'm going to say 10 years ago.
It was 2011.
Yeah.
The last
last
time they lost more than 2 games was 2011, and they went 6-7, which was the Luke Fickell interim. I think we talked about this last week for a second. Yeah, because we were doing the Ohio State schedule or something, and we talked about how steady they've been. That was the Luke Fickell transitional period between Tressel and Urban, and they went 6-7. But beyond that, they have only lost 3 games outside of that 1 year. 1 time since 2004.
Now they're
that's freaking incredible.
No, we talked about their consistency. Stupid.
Their schedule, will allow them like some breaks to where if the youth kind of gets it, because they're not. This is a good schedule for them. It's not weak, but it's not like a bear of a schedule.
They open with Texas.
But then they play Grambling in Ohio, and then they've got a lot of what ifs across the schedule. They get Texas and Penn State both at home. The two toughest teams of their schedule, they have them both at home. So
when do they play Penn? I know we've gone over their schedule.
November 1st. So
okay, they'll be grown up by then.
I think that they'll lose to Texas, and I do think they'll lose to Penn State this year. I think this is the year that Penn State gets those wins. I said it on the Top 5 on Friday. I just think that they're going to take a little bit of a step back before they kind of get back in, because they got cleaned out, like not only their roster, but their coaches.
This is a big year for James Franklin, a really big year for him to take advantage of Ohio State losing some guys and Michigan just kind of wandering right now and not really knowing if Bryce Underwood's going to carry them to the extent that they feel like he ultimately will. And just there's a lot of uncertainty here. By the way, this is not an official Big Ten preseason poll, because when I saw this, I said, wait a second, the Big Ten doesn't have a preseason media poll, because we talked about this.
These guys have done it forever.
That's fine. I'm just saying it's the Cleveland.com Big Ten preseason media poll. They don't do one, just like the Big 12 doesn't do one.
That's literally a media, too. I get what you're saying. Now, there was some Fox station that had one of theirs, too.
Yeah, people can do their own. I'm just saying this isn't like the league put this out there is my point. But, yeah, it's a giant league. Very interesting to see Oregon. They're near the top where they belong, but how much they've just transitioned over and not really skipped a beat, whereas USC and Washington and UCLA are just kind of there. And I don't know when they're going to kind of kick in. I mean, Washington still feeling the effects of coaching change and all of that. But, for USC at this point in their timeline with Lincoln Riley to be in the middle of the Big Ten, don't y'all think that's
it's damning. It's damning.
Pretty low expectations for them at this point. So, Penn State's got a world of opportunity this year, but the top of the league, I'm really interested to see the Illinois, the Nebraskas, the Michigans, in Indiana, how they all kind of sort out and contend near the top.
Garrett, let's keep doing, because we have a lot of sports headlines. Let's do the easiest and hardest schedules maybe tomorrow, if we have time for tomorrow. All right, rapid fire. Big Ten. Odds of making the college football playoff. 3 teams, which, of course, last year Indiana was a part of it too, but 3 teams that did make it last year, all of them with really good odds. Indiana down quite a bit, but Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, not a surprise where those numbers are.
And guess what? I'm going to tell Circus Sports that they're wrong about Ohio State. Again, a terrible season for Ohio State is 9-3. 9-3 will have kids walking through the streets of Columbus, sipping on cheap beer, going, I don't know what I did to deserve this
just
in my
roaming
life.
around.
Why do bad things always happen to me? They don't know what real pain is. But they'll be not. I think they're a 9-3 team. I just do. I think that they're
9-3 with them, though. That name that might get them in.
I think they're going to be just on the outside looking in, and they're going to be like,
God help us.
We shouldn't have lost, because here's the other thing that Ohio State is due for. They're due, and because they've been really good at this, especially under Ryan Day. They're due, especially coming up the national title, for a rando loss. Not a lose
Nebraska?
To Texas, lose to Penn State, but lose to Minnesota, lose to someone like that, and just the worst day of your life.
Last year, that was Nebraska, and they couldn't finish the deal.
But
they had them.
Now they're due for a rando loss.
They don't have rando losses.
No, they don't. They're due for one.
They don't have them.
Cosmically.
Okay. Now, couple other notes. Craig, any idea? That makes sense.
It's just a much different take than the media poll from Cleveland.com. Because clearly Ohio State's a difference already. Penn State's just moving a spot. But I think Penn State, Oregon are your teams you feel super great about. You're always going to feel good about Ohio State. But if there's a year where they might slip, this is a year where they could potentially slip, which for them is still the best years that most programs have ever had. I think beyond that, there's a gaggle of teams that could all be pretty good, but it's hard to sort out right now the Illinois from the Indianas, from the Nebraskas, from the Michigans, and so on.
I agree.
So
agree.
That'll make for some intrigue.
I can't wait for the 36 team. I know Paxton and Kim and all of you want the super conference. I don't. It might end up that way, but can you imagine having a super conference preseason, Paul, with 36 teams or 48
Yeah,
teams?
it'd be called the top 25.
Yeah.
Is
All
what
right.
it would be called.
The American Athletic Conference is no more. On the day that Memphis is trying to leave, they're now just the American Conference. Good for them. I like this conference. I think they do a hell of a job.
And that's all the news surrounding the American today. Nothing else has happened with the American or any of its teams.
It always happens at a time when they're doing media day.
Yeah, well, and man, I mean, you gotta feel bad that they're out there and they're like, hey, here's our rebrand. We've got a new mascot. His name's Soar the Eagle. He's got a sweater and he takes big strides.
He
Just look
eats
at this
rattlesnakes.
guy. Yeah, all these things. And then Memphis is like, we will pay a very large amount of money to not ever have to deal with that.
Yeah, for those that don't know, and you probably do, but this summer when Texas A&M and Missouri leaving the conference, it was what was it? What was the brand?
You're thinking of COVID. We're all in this together. That
was A&M in Missouri. Like 4 days later, the story comes out they're leaving, and then the other one, like what Greg said, with UT in Oklahoma, like 4 or 5 days later, is about a week later when that thing popped.
I think this sucks for them, the timing of it. I mean, people obviously put in some hard work to create some ideas to try to jazz this thing up. And you can say, well, how much does it cost to just drop a word? And that's very fair. Or to come up with the mascot. That's fair too. But like, people did this with best intentions and to do something good for the league. And then, yeah, the very day you drop this is when the Memphis story comes out. Like, I don't know who has something against the AAC or I guess just the American now. But the timing of that absolutely sucks. So I hate that for them, but I do think it's a good move because how many times have you tripped over ACC, AAC, and just talking about it? So you're the American, and people say the American, they know exactly who you're talking about. And you go to the AAC, I think most people probably have an idea what you're talking about.
Did they get that ever confused with the ACC?
I don't know.
What I just said. Yeah, that's what I just said.
But again, I think most people were calling it the American anyway.
Yeah.
I think that's just what they were calling it. So
Greg,
why
I'm
not
sorry.
just,
I was going to go ahead. I did not hear you say that. I was listening too for once.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think most people call it the American to Paul's point. So just roll with it. That's what most people know it as. And it's not confusing and it's just the American. And yeah, you know exactly what you're talking about. So just clear up any confusion. And I think that's a smart move. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but it's a smart marketing move.
Kim Coulter, you cannot send a message in the chat room after this particular story because I said so. Rhett Lashley on NIL and this, the revenue sharing. I have 100% confidence that people will circumvent the cap and break rules because they've been doing it for decades. SMU is planning to work within the cap. Now, that's got a little irony to it because of what they went through, but that was 30 years ago. Kim, you cannot make a comment. He just doesn't he hates SMU.
He will, but look, hey.
No, he's not. I'll nuke him.
The times have changed where SMU can say, look, or, I don't know if I've used this historical reference before, but in the 2012 presidential debates, they asked a question about outsourcing, and Mitt Romney's answer was really bad, and he kind of talked around it. And I was like, you know what he should have said is listen, I can solve outsourcing because my companies did it. So I know exactly why we did it and how. I regret it now and I can refuse it. This is like SMU going look, we know how to circumvent things. So we're going to play within it because we know how all the ways that we could do it, so we won't. And this is why we're the ones to tell you about it.
So far, Kim has stayed out of the chat. He's a good boy. Craig, it was ironic when I saw this. And we love Rhett Lashley and have him on the show quite a bit. I appreciate him just throwing it out there.
I mean, you're seeing the irony in the SMU part. I'm seeing the irony in any college football coach saying this.
There you go.
Basically, because they all cheat to some extent that they can, and they all find ways to get what they can, however they can. And I'm not saying everybody's dastardly and dirty. There's definitely levels to it. There's guys who flat out cheat, and there's guys who bend NIL a certain way to make it work within the legal framework. And so those are just creative cheaters. Like Phil Bennett said, you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. So there's creative ways to bend the rules, and then there's outright breaking them, and there is a difference in that, which I guess SMU did the breaking back in the 80s. But, I mean, I'll take his word for it. I just don't have a lot of faith that most schools are going to play by the rules because they just never really have. And I hope that that's the case, and that's the case for everybody. But we'll see. I don't have any idea how this is going to go. A lot of people were far too pessimistic before this thing was even 24 hours old, and already citing the death of any of these rules. And I don't think that we've seen anything but the NCAA go and deny some eligibility issues and go about that. But how much bite will, this new group have when it comes to actually penalizing people? That will be the key to all of this. I mean, are you just going to put them on probation and then threaten to slap their hand if they get out of line? Or are you going to go like, all right, you just lost 15 scholarship, what is it going to be? And if you actually have a strong hand and you can tell Miami or Baylor or TCU or Florida State or whoever to, what their punishment is going to be, and there's not going to be this, oh, well, now we're just going to sue you, then that'll be a great thing. But I don't know. We got to get there and see how that all works.
All right, a couple of more stories to get to. This is from Eric Morris, head coach at North Texas. The Pac-12 is the old Mountain West now. When asked if he'd want North Texas in the Pac-12 as a travel partner for Texas State, also, of course, about the difficulty in the travel. This is kind of a little
I'm glad he said it.
Yeah,
he's right.
Well, and especially as they've added a bunch of schools now, not yet this year, but next year, that will join the Pac-12.
Well, I think he's right. I mean, I think they're in a better situation in the American than they're the American, right? Yeah. than the American than
the American Athletic Conference. That's the American Conference.
Yeah, the American. I think they're in a better situation than they would just go into the Pac-12.
All right.
He got a lot of flack from, the typical
Yeah.
people that you would expect to be offended by something like that. A lot of Pac fans and I guess people who don't like UNT in the mentions crapping all, oh, y'all didn't have an invite anyways, and we'd rather have UTSA than you anyways. But, I mean, here's the thing is I know Pac fans know better. I know they know they're not a major conference anymore in the terms of the autonomy conferences or the power conferences. They are not that. I think they all know that. The hope is they can do enough to become that once again. I've just never been of the belief, kind of like with this Memphis story, I kept hearing all this last year about they're adding this and they're adding this and they're adding this. And 40 teams have changed conferences in this and the major level. And actually none of that's really happened, but you hear that all the time. And I'm like, was consolidation a confusing term to people? Because consolidation doesn't mean grow by 40 schools or by 10 or it means you trim it down. And so I think what we've seen in this is trimming, and that's consolidation. And I don't know what it'll take to regrow. But I think the Pac is making its best effort to position itself to where if that opportunity is there at some point, they can jump back into that fray. I just don't think it's happening anytime soon. I don't think the other conferences view them on their level any longer. And I don't know what it would take to change that. But I can see getting defensive about this if you're a Pac fan. But I do think he has a point. I do think he's valid in what he's saying. And it's not like some obscene, off-the-wall type of opinion. I think a lot of people probably agree with what he says.
No, I when I saw that quote, I had nothing. I didn't have any problem with it at all. I like Eric Morris and what he's done at North Texas. And then this story, remember when UT didn't get everybody that was supposed to commit to them? Well, they've gotten nothing but like 5 stars or 4 or 5 stars, whatever. Since then, the rich do get richer. 5-star running back, and again, depends on which. There's different groups that have 4-star, 5-star. There's arguments
not really
about
anymore.
that. He is a badass.
There's not really anymore. It's just On3
That's
and
right.
Rivals are together.
They own everybody. Yep.
Yeah.
5-star running back Derek Cooper, number 1 running back in the 26 class, which means he's a senior this fall, committed to Texas. They had the number 1 outside linebacker commit last week, and now they get the number 1 running back. And by the way, let me tell you something. Their history with running backs is just phenomenal. I mean, they really are. Wasn't there a picture of some guys sitting on the benches at the end of a game from a couple of 2 or 3 years ago, and there's 5 of them that are now in the NFL. So I don't see why he wouldn't look at that. I know there were other options, but he ends up committing to Steve Sarkisian.
Where's he from?
Nobody
knows.
Chaminade Madonna out of Miami.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean, that's a great get for them. And I take that back. 247 still doing their thing as well. I didn't mean to eliminate them. But, with On3 Rivals, pushing together, I mean, that eliminates the 3-headed kind of rankings, and now it's just 247 and the mutated whatever they're calling it on 3.
ESPN has theirs too,
and ESPN does as well. I just don't check them nearly as much. No disrespect or anything, but yeah. So those are like the 3 brands now, whereas just a few years ago is 247. It's Scout and Rivals, and it's been all sorts of changes. But yeah, the on 3 Rivals blending together is changing some things.
And I saw that they had new, I guess, teams and Rivals and listings and all that came out, and some guys went up and some guys went down. And I don't know if you were attached to various schools that you either committed to or did not. That seems to be at least
there's
some thought.
Some cherry picking with that. Like, oh, I noticed the guy that went down. I'm just going to pretend the guy that went up didn't happen because that doesn't support my argument. There's a lot of that going on last week, I feel like, I know there's a big to-do about rankings changes. I saw it on the Baylor site about a couple of their 4 stars got pegged, and it's like, well, if you look across the board, though, of like this whole like, well, they're anti this league or they're anti that. It's like, well, what that doesn't explain all the guys that gained a star or went up. So I don't know. I guess we just ignore that because it doesn't support the argument. But
all right,
there are times in history where if you do commit to a certain school, I definitely believe you get a bump. I don't know how much I buy in all the time of you commit to a certain school and you get degraded, although I do believe that can and does happen to some extent. I just don't think it's a grand conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the world we live in. So I understand I'm on the outside there.
When we come back, we'll ask Phil Bennett, how did coaches, wherever he was in many different places, did they ever even discuss any kind of rankings when it came to those who, they had the 1 stars to the 4 stars to the 5 stars and more. Phil Bennett is next, and this is 365 Sports. New information, Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 as they're winding into the last, 10 or 12 days in July. Right now at Allen Samuels, jaw-dropping $11,000 off the all-new 2025 Jeep Gladiator Mojave X, built for extreme off-road adventure, now priced to move. Hurry up, deals like that available right now at Allen Samuels. David Gray is the one who's in charge of all the sales department. Ready to rule the road, the 2024 Ram 2500, built to haul, tow, and conquer. And right now, yours for $43,864 at Allen Samuels. If you need power, the Ram 2500, of course, delivers that, no doubt. Also, if you want a 2025 Ram ProMaster, if you're looking for any kind of a van, if you're a business owner, Allen Samuels has that. Need one, need to get a fleet of vehicles for whatever it might be, they have those available too. Best in class capability. That and more. Hey, there's a 2025 Chrysler Pacifica Hybrid Premium S, $9,000 off. David Gray, Ted Teague, and the great people at Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Penny Clinic Waco and reach out to the Penny Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pennycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
365 Sports, 5 o'clock on a Monday, chilling in that beautiful backyard, College Station, Texas. Phil Bennett. Hello.
What's that, guys? How you doing?
We're doing really, really well. Hey, did you ever coach against Memphis or play against Memphis?
I sure did, yes. My last game ever at SMU was a 4 or 5 overtime. We missed an extra point. Would have won my last game there, but they were 8-3. Of course, we had struggled that year, but we played a lot of close games. They had that great running back, but it was in Memphis at the Liberty Bowl.
I don't know if you heard the story, Phil, but they reached out and they've been kind of working on this, lobbying for this for about a year, right, with about the money, $200 to $250 million. Didn't want to get anything for 5 years, although I think they still would have gotten a little bit of it. But they seem to be right on the cusp. But there's some that don't trust them or something. They've had NCAA issues. They have talent, my God. But it's something about them. What is it?
I think it's Memphis. You know, right now, Memphis is a tough place to go and to be from. The crime, the murder rate, I think there's a stigma there. Yeah, I really do. And if you've ever been to Memphis, I mean, it's an inner city school. I'm not saying it's not safe, but I know it's hindered their recruiting over the last couple of years. There's a lot of gang issues, and I think, you know, people don't want to where the stadium is. I've been told by people who have been there, they said, boy, it's a struggle to get people to come to the stadium or to get them to come to our campus. So that might be one thing, and getting people out, you know, to fill the stadium. They've renovated the Liberty Bowl, but I don't think they've really gotten better in attendance greatly.
Yeah, Phil, sometimes, like, I get the school being in a bad part. The stadium neighborhoods never. I mean, I'm sure you went to the old Orange Bowl back in the day. That was in a demilitarized zone.
Right. But Paul, Miami Miami was not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you know, that's a little bit different. I also, you know, I'm sure you're aware of this, but Mr. Smith, who owned Federal Express, passed away. So I don't know how anxious the rest of his family will be in the giving structure of what he was.
I didn't think about that. FedEx would still be involved, but you wonder if his presence would have made even more.
They gave them a bunch of money anyway, which is like an endowment or whatever, like that they can use for whatever they want. So, you know, maybe his family didn't have to do anything because they already, it was just already given to them. So, but do you think though, like, you didn't coach in them for very long because you very smartly retired, Phil, but coaching in a league where you have 16 to 18 different teams is a new challenge in that, you know, you kind of can't get in like a scheduling rhythm like you were, like, oh, we'll get them, you know, next year this is this, these guys will be this, the rosters are changing. What is the challenge of these gigantic leagues? And if you were a coach, I wouldn't want to see another team in our league now because they're so big.
Paul, I think there's an identity crisis. You look at the American Athletic Conference, which they're in, and you see a lot of schools like North Texas. They were excited to get in it, thought it was a good fit. Memphis didn't want them in it. Tulane didn't want them in it. They feel like it diminishes their recruiting market, and more people, they're recruiting the same type of kids. I never liked, and I've never been in a 16-team league where you rotate people in and out. I think getting natural rivalries. They always talk about when the SEC, when they brought Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas in, hey, we've got to make the natural rivalries every year. A lot of those games, I cannot imagine, for example, LSU not playing Florida. I really can't. I mean, that was it was a great rivalry. Same thing with LSU, Ole Miss, LSU, Arkansas. So those people, they have a problem with that. And I think it hurts having really good rivalries, staying steady.
Phil, Clemson's getting a lot of ink. They have Klubnik back, the quarterback who played at Austin High School. And, of course, Dabo had those 2 national titles within 3 years. And then they were so good that, man, just any kind of a little bit of a dip makes it look like, and then is he ever going to embrace the portal? We've had other guys on now that they just think Clemson might be set to be at the top of the food chain this year. Do you see that?
I thought when their final game last year against University of Texas, had they played just a little bit better on defense, they would have beat Texas at Texas. I think the quarterback proved that day. I mean, he was a better player for his team than Ewers was for his. I think that they've got his supporting cast. Like him or not, Dabo has had a thought process during this whole thing with people going and coming. And he said, we're going to stick to what we know. And I think that they remind me a little bit of us when we were at Baylor with Art. We didn't really worry about, I heard you guys talking about recruiting services and how they rank them. I never looked at a recruiting ranking ever.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Ever. I never looked at it. Now, I had guys come in and say, well, he's ranked younger coaches. I said, I don't care. And I don't. Now, I've always said this. There's issues going on right now that I can tell you flat out. These people they've hired to be lead recruiters and general managers, they're clashing like the dickens with these coaches because the coaches know what they need and what they want. And I can just imagine like the young Blanchard kid at Tech is a great young man. He works hard identifying, but he's not going to tell me what I need in the defensive backfield, D-line, or linebackers. They're just, and you got to remember, it's not the NFL, and these guys aren't experienced enough, and they don't know enough football to really pick the guys that you want. I know Bill Snyder used to always make the assessment what got him going. He said, we would take the guy that would be an inch shorter, maybe 2, a little bit lighter, but the things we never gave up was the ability to play his position real well, and the ability to run. We always had guys who could run. You look at our linebackers. Mark Semino was 6 foot tall. Was a Butkus Award winner, ran a 4.5. We had Josh Buell, all from North Mesquite, all conference. We had Terrence Newman, that was a track guy. Terrence didn't have any football scholarship offers. He was going to, when I got there, he was going to KU on a track scholarship. So I've always said this. I'll continue to say it. I said it with what's happening now with all the transfer. How you evaluate your needs and wants are still the most important thing.
Phil, the way I think it works the best in the NFL, if you look at the best general managers, like I'll just use Howie Roseman in Philadelphia. He's the one that's killing it right now. He goes to the coaches and he says, tell me what you think of these guys. And the coach, that they can get, that they'll draft or sign in free agency or whatever, trade for, and they'll say, here's what I like about this and here's where they fit. And then he goes out and, he buys the ingredients that they tell him to buy. That's what they need to do in college is like, look, here's my assessment on these guys you brought me. Here's my ranking on that. Go do that. And then when you learn each other, then the GM will know like, oh, he's not a fit for this system. Right. And all that. But right now, when you're just pulling a guy in and saying, go recruit, yeah, you're going to clash.
I think I know for a fact that one of the larger newly SEC schools, there's major conflict, and these guys, some of these guys they anoint as GMs have never been in the college game. I saw where Iowa, and I'm not talking about Iowa, I don't know this to be true there, but where Scott Pioli, now he's been a pro guy. I think he's Parcells' son-in-law or something like that. He is a NFL guy. Well, I got news for you. The NFL and college football, as much as they talk about it's become the NFL, it's not. How you do it, how you pick your players, it's a different game. And you can get by with a lot of things that the NFL can't get by. And that's the thing I still believe. I think you look at Baylor's, probably the best two players, Sawyer and Washington. They weren't 5-star players, but I think they're 5-star players.
Coach, I don't know how much you got to watch BYU and their quarterback, Jake Retzloff, last year. He announced he's heading to Tulane. He's got a crowded quarterback room down there, so clearly they don't know who the guy is just yet. But do you feel like BYU is going to suffer much from that curveball thrown their way this summer based on, how they played a year ago?
I do. I watched him play. Craig, I've always thought great quarterbacks, they might not always be the most talented, but what they do, they always make the people around them better. I thought that's what he did. I remember very much so watching their bowl game, and I watched them against Colorado. My goodness, they were a team that they were a good football team. I watched Kansas State and go up there, and he was a guy that he mixed it well. He was a run pass guy. That I doubt very seriously they have a guy at that level to replace him.
Yeah, their defense will be really good. It was last year, but the reaction, of course, you get when Retzloff's gone is they just need somebody that that old term bus driver, although that may not be fair to the players who might be competing for that job.
I don't know about you, Smoak, but if somebody said we're just looking for a guide, or that's a problem in today's football. You look at the teams that win the championship. I thought the move that Ohio State made last year to get the quarterback from Kansas State elevated them to a championship level. I really did, because he could do things a lot of people couldn't do, and he made them better. So I'm going to go with, you've got to have a playmaker at quarterback.
Phil, what do you think about, I don't know if we asked you about this, but Utah's got this Devin Dampier. He transferred in from New Mexico. They've got one of their better offensive lines. Kyle Whittingham told us at Big 12 Media Days, like, look, there was no way I was going out in a season like that. I don't know when it's going to be, but it's definitely going to be in a season like that. Do you think they can make a huge jump given the fact that Morgan Scalley and that defense is as consistent, no matter who's playing for it, as any defense in the country?
I've always respected Kyle, and I've always thought I played him. I played him when I was at Pitt, and I played him at Arizona State. I've always thought that they were, number one, very well coached, and surprisingly, the amount of talent that they have been able to acquire there. And, like I said, both times I've played them, it's been in Salt Lake. Great atmosphere. And I think he's kept his coaching staff together. I think they've solidified some things on offense, as one of his coordinators. I think this is right. I think he just quit last year and decided not to coach anymore. But I think they got that ironed out, and I would think they would be in the mix.
What is the difference, in your opinion, if you were an athletic director, president, board of trustees, or whatever, in picking a head coach who's an offensive mind or a defensive mind? Which one is there any trend that's one way or the other?
In my mind, I think that whether it's offense or defense, you have to be a distributor of assignments. You have to know what you want. I know that the great coaches I've been around, they didn't tell me what to do, but I had to tell them. They wanted to know, what my philosophy, what we were doing, and they had to be in on it. I think you make sure how you manage the team. I look at some of the best coaches, whether you like him or not. Urban Meyer had a lot of success. Urban wasn't an X and O guy. He just wasn't. But he managed the coaches, he managed the players. Now, you take Nick Saban. Nick Saban, I've always thought Nick and I were a lot. I wanted to be involved, especially with defense, but I wanted to dictate my idea of what I wanted on offense. And I had to have the right guy. And I think you take a guy like Brian Kelly, who's taken heat. Brian's people don't realize this, but Brian came to see me back in the 80s. He was the defensive coordinator at Grand Valley State. He's coached both sides of the ball, and he's more of a manager. Mac Brown wasn't a guy that called plays. So you get multiple types, but leadership, setting the tempo, and some people call it what's the word they always use? Culture. I don't like culture. I think head coaches set the expectancy of the program. And I think you look at Kyle Whittingham. I think Kyle has done that. He coaches the coaches, tells them what he wants. The players know it, and everybody's on the same page.
By the way, Bracken Cat in our chat room, our message board area, please thank Phil for the KSU recruiting stories, which you've shared over the years. Is it more difficult with NIL to actually trust players?
I heard you guys talking about Texas with a Florida running back. I read something, they said, hey, it's a 60-40 or 50-50 whether he ever shows up in Austin. Because if their young backs do well, this one kid said, whoever the writer was, I think it was Kurt Bowles, he said, he's not coming to Texas. If he knows, there's a freshman, sophomore that's lighting it up, unless financially they've really made a commitment. And I think you're going to see that a bunch. How the season plays out, I'm not sure commitments are going to last.
Yeah, it's hard, but, they seem to have a full cupboard. They lost their number one running back. They lost their number two running back. And then there's this kid, it was a Conley in DeSoto, who had 1,000 yards in the SEC, a kid, Trey Wisner. Right. It just seems like it's not like they win every recruiting battle, but they don't lose many kids who decommit.
Right. I'm going to tell you something. You got to really give them credit. Their evaluation of both offense and defensive, they've been pretty much on. And if Arch is the quarterback, and that everybody thinks he can be and will be, they're going to be something. I will tell you this. I said this before. I saw somewhere where Texas was +3 their first game against Ohio State in Columbus. With the new coordinators at Ohio State, I would take a lot on that.
Phil, when you have coached, like I always think about Coach Bowden or guys like that who were like the CEO head coaches who coached the coaches and wouldn't get involved in the play calling that much. Heck, Coach Bowden didn't even really wear a headset all that much the last few years. He had one he would hold up to his ear. But I always heard that like when he held it up to his ear, he wasn't just listening. He was about to say, "We're doing this right now."
Right.
And those things happen. What's that like for coaches on that other end of that? Like, hey, I told you guys to do this. You haven't done it yet. Now I'm on the mic. Get it done.
Paul, I think it's like any job that anybody's ever had.
Mm-hmm.
We all have a boss, all of us. And there comes a point, if something is not kosher, it's not doing, it's not on the tracks and it's not working, then he's got to make a call. And that's why he gets paid the money. That's why he has the title. And I always tell coaches, when I was a head coach, I say, listen, I believe in you, but there'll be times, and you'll tell it by my demeanor, you'll tell it by my urgency, my voice, that I don't want a discussion. I want it done. And hell, I got a wife like that. I know when is when. But that's just the way it works.
All right. So you last time you were on, you were telling a couple 2 or 3 times ago about the recruiting stories, and I'm going to play golf with you Thursday morning.
That's right.
I'm spending the night at your domain Thursday night. We're going to have a great time. Bubba Bean and Ed Pajowski, is that right? The former Cy-Fair coach?
And I might have one more surprise for you. He's checking to see if he can make it.
Oh, okay. All right. And where are we going to play?
We're going to play at Miramont.
Miramont. My God, that's a beautiful place.
It's
I can't
a great
wait.
course.
I can't wait. I can't wait to do it. So you mentioned earlier you didn't look at stars. Do you think and you think recruiting services are biased based on when players or who players commit to on whether their star rankings go up or down?
I heard Craig say, I don't think there's a lot of disloyalty intent. I do know this. When a school is active, when a recruiting coordinator is constantly in touch with 247 or ESPN or whoever, it's like everything else. They develop relationships. And so my point is, if let's say we get a 3-star and this recruiting coordinator has a great relationship with this guy and somebody had him as a 3-star, very likely he could go to a 4-star because they know it helps the fan base. I mean, there's so much shallowness that really doesn't matter, but they want the fan base and the fans appeased, and it looks good for the coaches. Hey, they're doing a great job.
Yeah,
they have a 3-star or a 4-star. They have a 5-star. And we all know that there's a lot of 3-stars that are really good players. There's a lot of 5-stars. I'm a believer in a 5-star, but a lot of them don't pan out for whatever reason.
Do you remember the highest ranked player you ever got a commitment to that actually showed up?
Absolutely. I mean, when I was at A&M, we signed 2 guys that were everybody in the world wanted. Everybody. And it was just, I wasn't there. I inherited it, but couldn't play.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
Couldn't
why
play.
you didn't. That's why you didn't bring him up. Okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
No. Couldn't play. Now I will tell you one. I knew Andrew Billings was a player. Andrew Billings, and I told him. I said, "You remind me of Aaron Donald." And I'm gonna tell you something. I don't know if y'all know this, but it impressed him so much. Years later, when he was still in the league trying to find his way, he called me. He said, "Coach, would you call Aaron Donald and see if I can come up and work out with him?"
No
and they
kidding.
did. Became good friends, and I think it helped Big B get his game going.
I would think so. He's such a quiet, unassuming guy.
He is an awesome person.
And Aaron Donald is not. Like Aaron will tell you how he feels. Man, I would have loved to be in a fly on the wall for that because
Aaron. When I said Aaron, I obviously knew him, and he said, "Yeah, coach." He said, "I'm going to be working out this." He goes, "Give me his number. I'll call him. We'll get it set up." And I don't know how long he went up there, but I know he went up there, and his dad Anthony told me said it was a great experience. Which sometimes you need to see how the great ones, and Andrew was a great one, but he wasn't at that level that he is now. Right now, I have a friend that just took the Bears, and one of my former players, Dennis Allen, took the Bears DC job. They love Andrew Billings.
Man, you got a taste of Aaron Donald when you were your last year at Pittsburgh, right?
Yes, I did. He was a freshman, and you knew right then. I knew. I said, this guy is a dog. And I remember, I think I told you this story. I had a GM want to argue with me about the length of his arms. And I'm telling you, if I would have been where he was at, if it wouldn't have been on the phone, I would have kicked his ass. I mean, I wasn't going to listen to it.
Well, you get to share that. You get to share that recruiting story about the guy that was.
His tires he slashed. That's what I want to know.
Yeah, we'll do that Thursday. Hey, can't wait to see you, Coach. Good to see you again.
Just one thing.
Yep.
Now I didn't slash it. I just put pebbles in it. I didn't do any damage.
No, you didn't do anything.
No, I just put pebbles in and flattened them.
There.
all he needed was an air hose.
Oh, my God. Thank you, buddy.
Hey, we're looking forward to it.
Thank you. I am, too, so much again. Phil Bennett, longtime college football coach, and some stories after. I cannot wait to spend time with him throughout the day on Thursday. Hey, how about this, Craig and Paul? Memphis put this out as a tweet earlier today.
Well, they've probably already been told no.
Well, yeah, they had. But that is, of course, the new name from American Conference, or to American Conference, and Built to Rise. That was something that was put out by Memphis earlier today. And, of course, then the story that also popped throughout the day as well, that they wanted to buy their way into the Big 12. Don't blame them. It did not work out. When we come back, we're going to look at the University of Missouri football schedule. We kind of continue to kind of chip away at that as we're getting close to workouts beginning at the end of this month and games. What was the game in Dublin, Ohio, the third weekend in August? And this is 365 Sports. What? Dublin, Ohio. Yeah, Dublin. I'm sorry. That's where Nicholas has his golf courses. I didn't know if you were paying attention over there. Dublin, Ireland. You're exactly right. I'm sorry about that. Why would I say Dublin? That's where Jack Nicholas has his golf course, I think.
That's where he's from. That's where he's from.
All right, when we come back, we'll have the Missouri scheduled, Ideal MRI. Thank you to Dr. Rob Maxey and company. I shared the note that Wet Blanket put in the chat room sometime last week when I was discussing Ideal MRI. An average MRI is $1,100, and it's worth the drive, 3-4. I don't know how many hours you want to go because of the fact that theirs is $497 or less every single time. And the fact they have a state-of-the-art imaging machine. I've been on it, I swear by what they do. No long wait. You get there usually about 10 or 15 minutes, and you check in, fill out, check some boxes. You're back into the room where they put you in a gown. Next thing you know, you're in the machine, and they are finding out what is hurting you in your hip or your back or your neck or possibly your knee. And the images are sent to you in the portal along with your doctor very quickly after that. I've walked out of there a couple of different times. They gave me the disc for the MRI, and I've gone and shared it with the doctor just in case he had not gotten in the portal each time. $497 or less, state-of-the-art imaging machine, and as Wet Blanket said, I'm driving to Waco for IdealMRI.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Car Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student-athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student-athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student-athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube.
Quick note before we get to the Missouri schedule. Somebody asked in the chat about Baylor. They're representing the United States, and they're over in Germany. They have won 3 straight against Romania today. They won by 20, and so they are, at least at this time in full play, unbeaten. Missouri, the Tigers, Eli Drinkwitz. I got a super chat first, Garrett, right?
Got 2 of them.
There we go. Kim Coulter, even though he's not a Tech fan, I love Coach Bennett because he always makes me laugh and smile. PB top 2 guest and Bracket Cat. Thanks, Phil, for the KSU Kansas State recruiting stories that he shares along the way. Craig, Missouri.
All right. Well, thanks to our super chatters there, and appreciate you folks as always. Here is Missouri as we get towards the end of this exercise. I can't wait, for one. It's been a nice little journey, but I'll be glad when we arrive because that means we're pretty much in lock with the season and talking about the actual games taking place. But in the meantime, we continue to just glance at schedules, and now here we are up to Mizzou, who's coming off a pretty good year, 10-3 a year ago, bowl win in their final game against Iowa in the Music City Bowl, and definitely, losing some talent, the likes of a Luther Burden, a Brady Cook, but what do the Missouri Tigers have in store for 2025 when it comes to their schedule? Well, for starters, they will open play up on August the 30th. As you see there, if we're in the running for like most basic ass graphic of all the schedules that have been released, we've done like 70 of them, and this is probably the most basic graphic. I can't imagine there's been too many others that are more basic than this, which
some
is
of them
fine.
have been dark where you couldn't read it well, but this one here,
it's almost just a Word document.
This could be like from an academy or something.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some sort of meaning in the whatever logos, like in that background or whatever that style is. But it's not the jazziest that we've seen, but that's fine. Starting off, Central Arkansas actually has this listed as August 28th on ESPN, which is a Thursday game. So perhaps that's been moved. because it says August 30th here, but ESPN has them as playing on Thursday against Central Arkansas, so we can double check on that one.
I have that Thursday is here.
Okay, so I think that's been shifted since they put out this graphic is probably what happened. So they will open things up on a Thursday, August the 28th against Central Arkansas. Then that'll be the only non-Saturday game they play the rest of the way. The following week, with a couple extra days to prepare, obviously, coming off of a Thursday game. Interesting non-con and definitely some history here as they will take on the Kansas Jayhawks. They're in week number 2, and that game in Columbia already announced as an ESPN2 2:30 kickoff. September 13th, continuing their non-con, they have Louisiana at home. That has been announced as an SEC network game, and that's all that's been announced as far as their first 3 games go TV-wise and all of that. A couple of other 11 a.m. kicks that we'll get to, but there is your first part of your non-conference. And yeah, so far, I think you're definitely looking at that Kansas game as one that has some potential to be fun. But after Louisiana, start to get into SEC play, and I was looking for their SEC special, as I have now coined it, which is the late season non-conference game that gets you bowl eligible or gives you that like little buffer between your SEC games. They actually don't have that. It's just not the 4 consecutive. So they will open SEC play on September the 20th at home against South Carolina. And then they have their final non-conference game there in week 5, Saturday, September the 27th against UMass. And so there we'll leave it as then they will get into their first bye week, the first week of October, but home against Central Arkansas on a Thursday, home against Kansas, home against Louisiana, home against South Carolina, home against UMass. Have you guys noticed anything that's happening so far? Yeah, 0 road games in their first 5 contests for Missouri. So when you hear about the toughness of schedules and things, there are ways where there's like some finagling, I feel like sometimes. And so like this is a part of the schedule where they definitely are going to need to take advantage of having all those home games. But yeah, they don't leave home for like the first 5 weeks of the season. So that's where we'll leave it.
If they're any worse than 4-2, it's a disaster. Now, I'm so happy that the border war is back. If I were commissioner of college football, my first like executive order, which I know probably not worth the paper it's written on, but my first command is if you have named a rivalry, if you have named it, you will play that son of a bitch.
Yeah.
You will play it.
You mean like Iowa State, Kansas State?
Yes, exactly.
Every year?
Exactly. If it has a name, you will play it.
I have another rule. If you've played over 100 times, don't make it less than 101 or 2 or 5.
You will play that.
They have met 160.
If it has a name, you will play it. They should play the border war every year. Absolutely.
120 times they've met.
Yes. So fired up about that. That South Carolina game should be interesting. If the quarterback situation works out for them, Missouri should be good, regardless of how easy the schedule looks at the outset, or favorable. I wouldn't say easy, but favorable. But they should be good anyway. But Craig, continue on because after this first bye, there's another common theme.
Well, if you'll remember too, they also had an incredibly easy schedule a year ago. When they went 10-3, and I'm not saying that personally. Like it was said to be the easiest schedule in the SEC last year. And so now they've got to hit the road, right? Oh, wait, no. Off the bye week, Saturday, October the 11th, at home against Alabama. So their first 6 games are at home. They don't leave home until October the 18th. That's freaking insane, dude.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane.
How does that happen?
The conference game against South Carolina being at home allows this because you see teams now where their non-conference 3 or 4 games are going to be home games. We know that's happening more and more often. But yeah, this is something else.
Well, they're going to get sliced and diced in the second half. They're going to have like LSU and Bama and everybody lined up, right? Okay, well, they finally go on the road. October the 18th, their first home game. They'll probably be 4-2, 5-1, 6-0, somewhere along those lines. Finally, at Auburn will be their first road game. The following week, they're going to be, I don't know if they'll be able to do this. 2 road games in a row, as they will then travel to Nashville to take on Vanderbilt. Then they have their bye week. So they have 5 games at home, bye week, home game number 6, 2 road games, bye week. is how their schedule sets up. Then finally the stretch run, November the 8th, A&M at home, Mississippi State at home, and then the final 2 games of the year, November 22nd at Oklahoma, and then November 29th at Arkansas. This is the easiest SEC schedule I feel like we've seen by far, given all of the number of home games. But yeah, 8 home games, all 4 of them from October 18th on. And in terms of the teams they don't play Florida, they don't play Georgia, they don't play Kentucky, they don't play LSU, they don't play Ole Miss, they don't play Tennessee, and they don't play Texas. They get to play Alabama, and Oklahoma might be really good, and South Carolina should be good, A&M. But man alive, if you could catch a break scheduling-wise, it feels like they caught a break scheduling-wise. And some would tell you they caught a break a year ago. So they're getting some of that same now that it's just flipped. But if they don't have 8, 9, 10 wins, then I think that would have to be a massive disappointment for Mizzou fans. Now, granted, you're replacing some talent, so maybe me talking about 10 wins is a little crazy because 10-2 is still 10-2. But I know about 100 teams in the country that would probably trade this schedule for the one that they've got.
I don't know about 100.
I'm just a little hyperbole.
I get it. But their 3 losses last year were all on the road.
Yep.
A&M, Alabama got smoked, and then South Carolina. And they play South Carolina near the end of the year. This year, they get them early at home. I guess if you could say, okay, here's the algorithm. Remember, we talk about algorithms, and sometimes it doesn't mean that there's somebody in that group that may not be a lot better. Maybe it's Oklahoma. Who knows? Maybe it's Auburn. I don't know.
I don't want to hear them at the end of the year talking about the toughness of the schedule, though. Yeah. And they won't have the ability to, unless Auburn's much better than anticipated, and there's a couple teams that are just way better than we think. But on paper, which is all this exercise is, and it's not Missouri's fault, really. No. I mean, it's just you look at it and you go, how in the world did they get that?
Schedule, what in the computer algorithm of shaking these things up allowed that to happen?
Well, it also helps when you play 4 home non-conference games, and none of them. Kansas is a good game, but the other 3 are the typical kind of affair. So.
Do you know the longest length they will travel this year?
No, I don't remember.
It would have to be. It would have to be Oklahoma. No, not Oklahoma. Excuse me.
It's Auburn.
Auburn, yeah.
732 miles.
Yeah.
To Nashville is 431 miles. To Norman is 466, and to Fayetteville is 315.
All right.
Also,
so
2 of their other road trips equal the one to Auburn. And again, it's not like they have to drive that whole way. They'll be on charter flights, but they have maximum 2-hour charter flight.
Jeez.
I mean, that's it. Maybe. That's all they've got.
Well, it's a shame for them that they didn't make the playoffs last year with the schedule they had and all that talent, and then you lose some pretty talented players, and now you have a schedule that's the easiest in the SEC according to a lot of outlets, and you are having to rebuild a little bit. I mean, you got to get Bo Pribula and guys like that. We'll see how much of a drop off there might be, but you just wish that you were like everything was ready to take full advantage of this. And I don't know that they'll be able to take full advantage of it the way that some other teams might be able to. But yeah, there's definitely a path if they don't have too much drop off that you should be in the mix for college football playoff spot.
You got help with the algorithm. You still have to play 3 or 4 teams that might be in the top 10. But when you play 8 non-conference or you play 8 conference games, then you can have 4 of those non-conference games at home, which they do. But that's all right. Eli Drinkwitz and company, what were they, 10-3 last year? And won the bowl game, as you mentioned, to end the year against a pretty good Iowa team. All right, Craig, thank you. Who's next? Oklahoma? Ole Miss. Ole Miss will be next. We'll look at their schedule tomorrow. All right.
Hold on. Let me see. What was Missouri's over-under in wins real quick? I should have looked at that to see where they are. Because 10-2 is still
I'm
a difficult thing
I'm going to say
8.5.
8.5.
Missouri over-under wins.
If this was me doing this.
7.5.
Oh.
7.5 wins. That's surprising to see that. But also, again, they lost a lot of talent, so maybe that's the line of thinking there. It's definitely not because of the schedule. So if Mizzou's better than expected, they can definitely take full advantage.
There's a graphic or two that we'll have tomorrow that we were going to use today, but we had so much going on about the easiest non-conference schedules. Doesn't mean whoever published this is right. But in that list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 10 teams are out of the SEC. When we come back, Paul Catalina's top 5, Andrew back. He has poll results and more. This is 365 Sports.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into the Top 5. I'm Paul Catalina of Paul Catalina's Top 5. I know, shocking, right? Top 5 teams that make a jump, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Go to flagandanthem.com. Use our promo code 365sports for a discount at checkout. Number 5, Florida. This kills me. It kills me, but I do think they'll make a jump. Now, if you look at their schedule, I've said it many times on the show, Billy Napier's either going to make more money than he's ever seen in his life or get fired by the cocktail party in October. But DJ Lagway is that dude. He is the kind of guy who brings in other players. They've got young wide receivers, transfer wide receivers, running backs, and offensive linemen that should improve that offense. Now, can the defense get better under Ron Roberts? We'll see. I think the Gators make a jump this year, at least enough to secure Billy Napier into the future for a little bit. Maybe not SEC title contender jump, but, oh man, this team is on the way up jump. But I reserve the right to be wrong on this one. And God, I kind of hope I am. Number 4, Louisville. Not a lot of people talking about Louisville. Look, Jeff Brom has come in and has been very steady there, getting to the ACC title game in his first year and losing to Florida State. Then last year, one of the teams that beat Miami. They were not as consistent at the quarterback position, or maybe a little bit more consistent at the quarterback position, not as good at running back in some other spots. This year, I think they've made the jump, and I think Miller Moss, especially given the way that Tyler Shuck played last year, is a nice step in the right direction, or in the same direction as Tyler Shuck. He's been healthier, similar skill sets. I think Miller Moss will do well there at quarterback for Louisville, and I think they're going to make some noise in the ACC for sure. Number 3, Texas A&M. Widely talked about, but I do think they make a jump. I think this is the year where they start upsetting teams, beating teams they're not supposed to beat.
not just one time during the year. Also, I think this is the year where maybe they don't go upset Texas or beat Notre Dame or some of the teams that are like super elite on their schedule. But I do think this is the year that they stop losing stupid games to teams that they should not lose to. That has really been their Achilles heel. Look, they could have, under Jimbo Fisher, had they just gone 10-2 and lost to teams like Alabama and LSU, they'd have been on the right track. The problem is they were going 8-4, losing to Alabama and LSU, and then also losing to Auburn and Mississippi State or Kentucky, or just kind of random losses that they were better than. So you shouldn't lose those games. Beat the teams that you're definitely better than, and things will be better. I think this is the step forward they take under Mike Elko this year. And now, look, these teams are not necessarily national championship contenders, but I do think they make a jump onto the scene in 2025. Number 2, Utah. They're a Vegas pick to win the entire league. Big Devin Dampier fan. I can't back off that now. And of all the teams on this list, they might make the biggest jump from last year to this year because of their offensive line, because of Devin Dampier, and because Kyle Whittingham, he's not going out like that. He's going to ride off into the sunset the way he wants to ride off into the sunset. And I think Devin Dampier in this offense gives him a huge opportunity to, because they'll be at least consistent on defense, if not elite. And number 1, Iowa. Best defensive team year in, year out in the country under Phil Parker, the defensive coordinator. Kirk Ferentz has somewhat embraced this new era of college football, and it's given him new life, as opposed to many old grizzled coaches who couldn't care less, and they just want it to end. Kirk Ferentz says he enjoys it. They went out and got a quarterback who's thrown the ball all over the yard at the FCS level, and Mark Gronowski. He is a very good player at the FCS level. I think he translates really well into the Big Ten. I think he translates really well into an Iowa offense that will protect him and give him opportunities. I think they're a little short on superstar playmakers, but I think with the kind of football that they play in Iowa, it will be negligible compared to other teams that need to make this kind of a jump. Because of their defense, because they actually have a quarterback who can walk and chew gum and not choke on it, Mark Gronowski, I think this is a team that is a very, very tough out in the Big Ten and might take down one of their elite opponents this year. I would not be surprised. That's been Iowa's problem. They beat everybody they're exactly supposed to beat, but when they play against the elite teams in the league, the Penn States, the Ohio States, the Michigans, they get worked. I bet you they take an elite Big Ten team down this year. That's what I'm saying. I'm not crazy. You're crazy. And we're crazy for Andrew Villai's polls. He's back from the woods, people. Smokey, tell the people what they've won.
Here are the results from Andrew. Welcome back, Andrew. And Brandon, by the way. We mentioned that earlier. The poll results. Memphis, 200 million being reported, maybe 250. Bid rejected. What's next? Pretty split here. Big 12 should reconsider. Memphis needs a new strategy, and then Memphis stays in the American Conference, or wait and see what happens next.
Yeah, it's a pretty even. 33% with 20% being the bottom two is not really, running away with anything like normal. And I think they probably need a little bit of a new strategy, because at first I thought the Big 12 should take the money and run. And then the more you read about it, you're like, but to what end? Although, look, Memphis did paint them the sweetest heart of a deal you could to add a 17th team where they're not going to take money. They're going to give you money in ad sales, and you can kick us out if we don't work out in 5 years. But even still, like it.
By the way, one of the things, though, that of my sources, though, Paul, is that when the stories say that each team was going to get about $3 million with this 250 whatever, apparently that would have been from businesses. Mm-hmm. And that Memphis would have been a part of that. They would have gotten a little bit of that money. Not a lot, but they would have also gotten about $2 or $3 million a year.
Yeah, that's part of what I said at the beginning about how the reporting was about. It wasn't like just cash. It was like sponsorships. And it's like FedEx was paying a bunch of money and sponsorship money, which would then get doled out. Yeah. And that's how that was going to get paid. It wasn't just cutting checks for $3 million to every school. It was like, FedEx will sponsor this and pay $50 million, and then that'll get separated. And that's how they were going to do it, at least in some ways.
And Brett Yomark probably thinks I can do that without.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mentioned earlier. Is like if you already have sponsors for everything, you don't need sponsors for all those things. And so you don't turn down sponsors necessarily, but like doing it that way, they don't really need to do it that way. They've already got the this and the that. So I mean, this is everybody's just opinion here. I think for I don't think the Big 12 should necessarily reconsider. I think that they clearly have a plan in mind, and the quick cash grab is not always the answer. That's really short-sighted, and there are a lot of smart people that need money that are passing on money. So clearly they have a longer-term vision than just like, well, let's take this $3 million and let's just figure it out as we go. So yeah, I definitely don't think that's the answer. I mean, Memphis is in the American from here on for a while, and now they're trying to play kiss up and all that. That's just. Do you think the social media intern had any idea when they put that out of what the reaction was going to be?
Nope.
No.
But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll just see what happens next. And I don't know about a new strategy. Like you got naked and basically just offered yourself and everything to do with you for and you'll pay. And they're like, no, we're still not going to take it. So I don't know. I don't know what you do.
Day, not a good PR day at all. I don't know what they can do now. How will Jake Retzloff's move from BYU to Tulane impact the future? Tulane gets a serious upgrade. Little impact on either team. BYU's quarterback depth takes a hit. Well, we knew that. Yeah. And then both teams are still facing challenges.
I mean, I think Tulane gets a serious upgrade. He'll be the quarterback by week 3, in my opinion, full time. I think he'll pick it up pretty quickly. Ralph Russo, told us that they don't have to throw him to the wolves right away, but I would say by the time they play Ole Miss, Jake Retzloff starting.
Yeah, that just seems like a quarterback room that clearly needed another name, so that says a lot. If they were good where they were, they wouldn't have had a Jake Retzloff on July 21st. So I think it's much more of a gain for Tulane than it is a loss for BYU, and I'll eat my words if that turns out to be wrong. If BYU loses a bunch of games because of quarterback play, I'll be the first to own that. But yeah, for now, it's a nice upgrade for Tulane because clearly they weren't happy with what they had or satisfied with what they had.
The Open Championship. Rob Bolton won, damn it, by how many strokes over you, Paul?
I think 2.
And then I was 2 back at you. My team made a great run on the 4th round.
Victor
Sunday.
Hovland hit the wall.
Yeah, Hovland ended
that's
up.
what cost
struck.
me.
Yep.
If he was just even, I would have won by 2.
We all made the cut. It's a hell of a leaderboard for all of us together. By the way, this is nuts how things like this happen. Scotty Scheffler picked up his 4th major. 1,197 days apart. Tiger picked up his 1st to 4th major. Both 1,197 days. See, this kind of the stuff, I want to just hug this. This is the kind of crazy stats that no way this happens, but it did.
At least Scotty Scheffler realized early on that this is all there is, and then didn't put all his extra energy into hose.
To what?
Hose.
Perkins, talking about Tiger.
Okay. You're talking about Perkins waitresses.
Yes,
ball.
Yes, exactly.
Isn't that nuts? So it could have been 1,196, 98, whatever. Yeah. But that's the way it is.
And look,
do we have the WNBA t-shirts? We have to. This is not. We have to close it out. They wore these prior to the game, the game that they had over the weekend, All-Star game. No doubt the ratings are higher, although tickets for the All-Star game dropped nearly 50% once everybody found out that Caitlin Clark was not going to play. They wore these shirts for a league that has at times lost $50 million in a year. Never made money over all the existence of the league. Yes, they're going to have better ratings. They're going to have a better TV deal. Their pay will go up, but pay us what you owe us is a weird, strange turn.
I would say that, and you're going to be defending them here, Smokey, that none of the money losses are the players' fault in the WNBA. None of them are. Why would the player? Why was there? Why they play basketball? They play basketball, right? Why is it their fault?
If they would have had other Caitlin Clarks 10 years ago, maybe they've had superstars much better than her.
I mean, I think their biggest problem is, but yes, they have, and who knew about it?
Nobody.
Exactly. Is that Kelsey Plum's fault? Is that Cheryl Swoops' fault that nobody knew about Cheryl Swoops? No, it's the teams that employed Cheryl Swoops that nobody knew about how good Cheryl Swoops or Teresa Witherspoon or all these great players you know.
But owe us is Paul. You're telling me about history. I get it. Owe us. What are
they? I think they're worth more money than they're getting paid.
They're going to get it when the new TV deal comes in.
Well, yeah, but that's what you do when you're in a labor dispute. I mean, you're like, you know, thanks for everything. That's not how you negotiate with the
us
big
means
bosses.
that they've earned it up until yesterday or the day before. They haven't earned anything.
What I'm telling you is that they have, their owners haven't. They've done exactly what they're supposed to do, right? They're supposed to go out there and play basketball, right? Win games, play basketball, and do that. The owners.
This is for a league that has lost their ass. Whoever's been the reason for it, this is not a good look for them in a labor dispute.
I doesn't bother me in one bit. I think the owners are the reason that they lose money, not the players.
Who are the owners?
The NBA owners, and other owners. But yes, but it's not their fault they lose money. They do what they're contractually obligated to do. Now, should they get as much as Kevin Durant's getting? Absolutely not, because the money doesn't exist for that. But they should get more. They should at least get more so they don't have to go to.
They're going to get more.
Estonia and Russia and all that
They're going to
play
get
in the
more
winter.
because the new TV deal kicks in.
And again,
but they haven't earned it until now.
They're negotiating it.
Yeah,
they have earned it the entire time.
If they were to strike, I got a feeling they would find out what would happen.
They've earned it. The players have earned it the entire time.
I disagree. We can agree to disagree on that. All right. When we come back again tomorrow, we'll have Shahan Jayaraja, among others. Thank you, Garrett Ross. Appreciate it. Brandon Rowe. And also King Jiu-Jitsu. Thank you to Andrew Valet. Glad to have everybody back. For Craig Smoak and for Paul Catalina, I'm David Smoak. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow at 3.